miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better ask somebody. Already, I consume the patty, it's plenty, I leave a penny for thoughts about how I'm living. Ay, turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than adios. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, me off the top, no way. I came and carved my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Starlight, see my glow up, where you supposed to go? Posted on the low, can't lose and find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, I get it, they love my whole steady. Fake ops don't listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Cool riders off my body, cut them off, they acting sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than adios. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No.
For our first FNCS group of the Major, we saw a variety of ways that players are getting around the map. Let's break down how some of our top players are making the most out of the new mobility items introduced this season. The first item we'll take a look at is Sub-Zero's Combat Kit. The strength of this item is with the 3 dashes that each recharge after 10 seconds, giving you the ability to cover distance immediately. This is great for a quick dash, however the main trade-off with it is that these dashes cover a much shorter distance than other mobility items, making them less efficient for those longer rotations. We saw this last weekend when teams that had one player carrying the kit had to box up more often and make smaller, slower rotations, burning through materials. The attack feature of the kit is also a solid option for close-range engagements when you don't have a gun or ammo. This is a good place to start when considering mobility, and as long as you're using them correctly, you'll be able to make safe rotations. This season introduced a new mechanic, Gold Rush, which gives you increased movement speed and a faster pickaxe swing for a limited time. There are of course ways that you can get this effect naturally around the map, but the most popular way for competitive players is through the Gold Splash item. This item works very similarly to the original Chug Splashes in terms of health regeneration, however grant you the Gold Rush effect for 20 seconds. At the highest level of competition, this boost is vital, as we see a lot of teams using these to not only rotate faster, but to also quickly close in on fights after a beam. And with the pickaxe speed increase, allow them to get into their opponent's box much quicker when they get there. You can of course gather these splashes in the usual way, however top competitive players know that you can buy them 100% of the time at the backwards black market in magic mosses, at a cost of 150 gold per stack of 2. This is why we saw a lot of teams rotating through here to get an insane number of splashes, which helps propel them through all stages of the game. The main and clear favorite mobility item amongst competitive players this season is the Kneecapper Baseball Bat. This is an item that, when held out, gives you an increased sprint speed, reduced stamina depletion, and a boosted jump when sprinting, that also makes you immune to fall damage, which even some of the best players in the world are still struggling to get to grips with. Anyway, this speed increase can also be combined with the gold splashes to allow you to go even quicker, something that we saw a lot of our top teams take advantage of to quickly get to the front side of zone in endgame, or even to get out of the storm more efficiently. Also, although it's used a lot less than the sprint feature of the item, you can also use the charge smash to hit your teammates across the map and allow them to take 0 fall damage. This ability can allow teams to cover a large distance quickly if not all players are lucky enough to have it in their inventory. One more feature of this item that was very effective last weekend was the melee attack. This is a perfect way to get out of trouble as a last-minute bailout, or even turn a fight inside of a box into a quick home run. This has similarities to what we saw last season with the Typhoon Blade, as it's really effective for top players to get easy Storm Surge damage while inside of an opponent's box, if they need a quick solution to their Storm Surge problems. With so many ways that players can move around the map this season, and unique playstyles that we've already seen with these mobility items, we can't wait to see how the rest of Major 2 unfolds.
Welcome to the FNCS Pro-Am.
Step to the throne, I'm a king, not a quitter, I'm a winner. welcome to FNCS Major 2. It's time to say hello to the Group 3 lobby and my lovely analysts. We have got Takata and Levin2K. Hello, Levin. How are you doing? That's a cheeky little grin.
I'm on top of the moon. I am feeling alive. It's the final group, but I'm excited for it because we've got some big names today.
We have got some big names, but it feels like they're all a bit more mixed up than they were last season. A lot of new trios today. Takata, anyone you're looking forward to seeing?
Oh, there's quite a few trios. I mean, we got Thomas playing with Upland Panzer. We've got Demas Darm Pix. There's a lot of big names, but I'm excited.
Yeah, and you should be really excited because we've got a big name that Levin, I thought wasn't going to be joining us this season because didn't Mr. Savage retire?
I mean, that was the story, right? That was the big story coming into this season. I mean, you know, we can't forget, right, how amazing their Major 1 performance was. After that, they decided we're not going to play a Monger anymore. Me and Panzer are going to look for one. Then they played like a couple scrims with Apple and it didn't quite go too well vibes-wise. And Panzer was like, I'm out of here. And then Mr. Savage was just like, you know what? It's time to hang up. It's time for me to retire. And it caught a lot of us by shock to cut. I think a lot of people were like, hold on a minute, like, is this even real? And then, you know, we saw him get on stream and talk about it very emotionally. And then he sort of just moved on and like actually retired for a bit. And it was a bit weird. Like, it was so strange, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, I remember I was like scrolling through social media and I see the video. I'm like, wait, this can't be true. This can't be real. I mean, Mr. Savage, the legacy in Fortnite competitive. I remember watching his first like solo videos, his solo tournaments with the original Fortnite competitive events that like first started off and now to this day still competing. But hey, I mean, he retired and now he's here in the group stage. So what's going on here, Frankie?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I spoke to him. He told me he'd retired. Levin, you spoke to him. He told you he'd retired.
Yeah, you know, it was sort of all over the place for a bit. Well, he is back, and I think the important thing is, right, when he actually did his stream, announced his retirement, he said something that really sort of captured me. And it's something I think a lot of the top elite players in his echelon sort of can relate to in that, he said, before I was a player that would stream, but now I feel like I'm more of a streamer that plays the game. And, you know, now he's back and he's competing and I'm sure there is a lot of focus on the game still. But I think that sort of signifies a shift in his career, a new era of Mr. Savage. And that doesn't mean he can't compete, right? Because he is here and he is going to try and make it to globals. That is the storyline that needs to be finished now. But it's such a challenging thing to cut off for top level players like him who make content to strike that balance. I think it's something that, you know, doesn't ever really get talked about or a light shone on it enough. Like, it is so difficult. And so props to him for handling it for so many years.
Yeah, I mean, especially in Tier 1 Fortnite competitive, there's a lot of pros that maybe don't want, you know, their scrims streamed live. And as a content creator, it's kind of difficult to find that balance and that consistent trio that you can play with for a long period of time.
Well, we've also heard that he's not alone, obviously. This is a trios event. He's with Reason, but he's also with Vidil, who literally last season was playing in North America. So, Takata, this plot is thickening here. What's going on with Vidil?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because Vidil was playing with Cooper and Spinks. Even last season, they performed very well, but this season came around and, you know, at the start of the Divisional Cup placements, it wasn't looking too good. And you see the big drop off there in Div Cup Week 4. I mean, Levin, they had to go against Booga.
Yeah, they had their honeymoon period come to an end. And you could see that final Div Cup in Week 4 where they placed second to last, which is just not the standard you would have expected from that team, especially since they spent a lot of Major 1 considered like the second best team in NA for the most part. And like you said, they went up against Booga at Seaport. You know, Booga, Craze, Frets, dealt with them. That's not even a trio anymore, funnily enough, right? But, you know, those guys 4-0'd them off spawn in that week, and Sphinx decided, all right, enough's enough. This trio can't continue anymore. I'm out. I'm looking for a new team. And I sort of left Vidil sort of like, oh, okay, what am I gonna do? I guess I'll go home, right? And so he decided, it's time. It's time to return to EU. 1 season in NA was enough. And he joined up with Reason. Reason was looking for a team because it didn't work out with Janice and O'Reilly and whatever. And so it was Reason and Vidil looking for one. And you have to remember, at this point in the season, right, there's not many options, right? You're sort of week 4, week 5 of the Div Cups. Most people have their teams. Most people have been cracking all season. They're ready to go. And so looking at the available pool of players, there wasn't really many options but one. Mr. Savage. And of course, they have history playing with each other. And so it took a bit of convincing, right? And it took a bit of negotiating between all three of them to figure out, what was going to happen. But eventually they settled on it. And they've been looking good so far. They've been looking good. I think looking at this heat, a lot of people expect them to come in and qualify uncon at Mars Meadows. But what the future lies for this team, it's still up in the air a bit, Takata.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean, what a legacy trio. I mean, they're literally the most experienced trio in EU, 63 FNCS finals. They got 28 top 10s. But thinking of today, you said they're going Mass Meadows. They are uncontested in Mass Meadows. However, I did see Vico Venoflixi talking a little bit about, hey, we kind of want to go Mass Meadows in the major finals. So if they do end up qualifying, maybe there's a little mix up there. What happens if Savage quals to globals? I mean, he can't really retire at that point, right? A lot of questions, but definitely it's going to be exciting, Frankie.
So in other words, Dakar, you want him to make it to the major finals and then qualify for globals, and then we know we've got guaranteed Mr. Savage for all of Chapter 6. So fingers crossed for all the Mr. Savage fans out there. But I do want to know from Mini Miner and Taco, did you think that the Savage retirement was legit? Can they hear us? Oh my God.
It's just such a tough spot to be in, Frankie, because from a competitor perspective like Savage, you have to think about the long nights of VOD reviewing. You have to think about the constant obsession with your tournament results. And not only that, but having every single one of your moves be dissected underneath a microscope. It was almost harder to picture a time where Savage would even have a bit of a break here, Mini. But as far as Max Delusion is concerned, maybe I was thriving off of that along with a lot of people in the community. I never wanted to believe that this was actually the end of it for Savage. Just a little bit of player burnout that needed some time to rejuvenate himself. And I think he's found that with Reason and Vidil.
Yeah, neither did I. I mean, he did that video and I thought, it's over. I mean, I really didn't want it to be over. And then, of course, a week later or so, he came back and he thought, right, let's just get back into it. But, of course, I want to look back at how that all started. And it all started with Panzer, of course, no longer playing with Mr. Savage. Now, though, looking really, really strong in a brand new trio with Uppel and Thomas HD. And I think Panzer's a really interesting player when you look at both him and Uppel together as well. Their progression as individuals in these FNCS finals, they've only had Panzer's only had 3 grand finals appearances and Uppel's only had 2. And it just seems like every single time they're one-upping each other. I know last season as well, Panzer had the second most overall damage in those major 1 finals, ahead of Vico himself. So he's a player that can do some damage in these finals. And the way that he was able to play with Mr. Savage and Mongra was really interesting as well.
And they're going to need those up-and-up results, because if there's anything Thomas HD is definitely still searching for, it's going to be that Blade of Champions. He wants to get a win of his own, but there's a lot more to break down when it comes to that team.
That's such a good point. We still haven't seen Thomas HD win an FNCS major final. He didn't even make the major 1 finals earlier this year. But now, Levin, he's got a brand new team. How excited should we be for this trio?
Incredibly excited, because when you look at the way things unfolded last season for Thomas, yes, he didn't make it to the finals, but when you actually looked at a lot of like the stats last season, he was leading in a lot of the damage numbers in tournaments that he played, right? And so the signs were still there that he's clearly still a top player, right? It's not like he just fell off of a cliff after globals, right? He still is one of the better shooters in the lobby at any given time. And when you look at his teammates now, you have Panzer, who proved last season is one of the better IGLs in EU right now. You have Uppel, who proved last season that he can lead, but he can also frag at a high level when he was playing with Cantry and Fincheck. And so you have 3 players who are really good at their roles, and you have 3 players who just on paper, like this team looks really good, and the performances so far have been really good, Takara.
Exactly. I mean, talking about the divisional cups, they've gotten 6th, 3rd, and 5th, despite having came together, later on in the season. You also talked about Thomas HD, how much damage he does. He was leading last season, but also this season in those 3 div cups, he was first in damage, and second in damage in the most recent one. So he is also continuing to lead the pack in damage, and I would not be surprised if we see a stellar performance from this trio today.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the redemption of Thomas, that arc that we're going to see him hopefully go, I suppose, travel along for the rest of the competitive season is really exciting to think about. So good luck to his trio today. But there is another trio, Takata, that I'm low-key obsessed with. Diamond, Darm and Pix. They managed top 5 in Major 1 and they were so hyper-aggressive that I can't wait to see them at it again today.
Oh yeah, no, I love this trio, Demus, Darm, and Pix. Now, this is an interesting trio because last season, they literally got the record for the highest elim match in groups for EU, and that qualified them to their first ever major finals. And then in the major finals, they got 5th. So not only did they play in their first major finals, they got 5th in that tournament. But I almost feel like, Levin, they went from being kind of the underdogs to top tier rising talent a little too quickly, as almost they're missing a bit of that consistency that some of these top tier pros have on EU.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at how this team's evolved, obviously they added Dom when it came to trios, but Demus and Pix have been on quite the rise since sort of the global championships ended last year in duos. And I think they spent a lot of that time towards the end of last year and the start of this year as underdogs. I think now they have more of that respect, and I think their consistency problems, you know, have been reasonable. I think a lot of the top teams in EU have had consistency problems where the metas change at times during the div final weeks. I think this team in this lobby is, you know, a shoo-in to qualify, whether it be through a win or consistency. Their performance last major, not even landing at their POI, was sublime. So I suppose they'll do it again today.
Yeah, I mean, if we actually look at their placements throughout the season in the Div Cup finals, it's interesting to look at because they either place like top 20, 8th, or even 1st. And if you even look, you might say, okay, maybe they were just contested sometimes, uncontested sometimes, but when they got 20th, they were uncontested. And when they got 1st and won the whole Div Cup, they were also uncontested. So why does this keep happening? And I think it is to do partially with what I was mentioning about consistency. They either get these very big pop-off games or they end up getting eliminated in the early to mid game, because unlike maybe Camiseti and Cherry, who minimize all the risks, this trio kind of takes those risks to get big elim wins, to get a bunch of loot, a bunch of mats, everything you need to kind of have those pop-off matches. But it can also lead to you getting eliminated early on and not having the best placement. So I think if they qualify, it'll either be through maybe a couple pop-off matches or maybe a win, Frankie.
I'm so excited for those pop-up matches, but I'm also really excited. You can see the silly little grin on my face right now, boys, because Pink and Nebs have joined up with Kiro for the Major 2 action. And Pink has got a special message for anyone who's considering going to Demon's Dojo today.
People have tried to contest me at Dojo before. You had Teeny last season, beat them 5-1. We had Hydro try contest us this season. It was like 14-0. If guys want a battering session, they can come Dojo.
Does the Kira's trio want a battering session because they're landing near him at the same POI, right, Levin?
They will not be wanting a battering. I don't think anyone after seeing that will want to mess with Pink at Demon's Dojo. Now, Akira's trio is landing to the south of the POI. So, you know, on a lot of sort of like drop spot maps that get posted around the community, it might look like they're contested, but these two teams will not fight for the most part. They might engage in each other in some of the early games if, you know, they're struggling for Surge and whatnot. But for the most part, you know, these guys could go the next 5 games without really interacting at all. So don't worry about them, you know, fighting off spawn. The big thing though is, you know, that's a big part of loot that, you know, Pink would ideally like to claim. And so, you know, it sort of gives them a bit less to work with there. But they've shown in the Div Cup so far this season, especially some of the latter ones where obviously they play 2nd in week 5, that they can be fine without it, Takata.
Yeah, and I mean, when they placed 2nd in week 5, it was the exact same matchup. They were going against Akira, Kararma, and Werex, but what's interesting is, you know, like you said, they were contesting each other, but they were basically just splitting the loot. Now, in that tournament, Pink got 2nd, but Akira got 9th. And if you're talking about qualifying range for the group stage today, you're going to have to do better than 9th, either a VR or, you know, top 5 on that consistency leaderboard. So it might be possible that Akira's trio, or whichever trio isn't doing as good, maybe switches some things up, a little more aggro. I mean, I'd like to see it at least, Frankie.
I want to just see aggro. That's all that Lobby 3 for me is about. And I'm wondering who is going to manage to find that correct balance and get themselves a spot in next weekend's major finals. Levin, I did ask you for your guarantee last night, and you said Reason, Vidil and Savage are going to get the first victory royale. And I was like, oh, no, that's over-exaggerating. And then I thought about it all night. I was literally lying awake thinking, why did I say that Levin was incorrect? Because actually, I'm convinced that this could actually happen. Are you, though? Are you still convinced?
I was just joking yesterday.
I know you were, but still,
I'd love
I
to
want
see
to
it. That was
believe.
why I said it. You know, I'd love to see them win that first game. I think all the fans would love to see it, and it would be great for the storyline.
Yeah, Takata, very quickly. You think?
I'm ready.
Do you
I'm
believe?
ready for it. I think they can do it.
All right, well, let's see what our casters think. Mini Minor, Taco?
Thanks so much, but I think we would all love to see Mr. Savage, Reason, and Vidil be on the battle bus for the Major 2 finals, but who's actually going to be locking in these final 10 seats of the group stage? We'll find out here now in Game 1.
So many different storylines here in group number 3. We have unretired players coming all the way from NA. And of course, some new faces on the block as well. This is going to be an exciting day, Taco. We've got plenty of players that you'd expect to see in a major finals. Also some situations where maybe we'd be a little bit surprised if people qualified through, but that's the beauty of this format, as it looks as though Pink, Nebs, Kiro uncontested Demon's Dojo completely, so they're going to have that entire POI to themselves.
It's not just Pink's aura from that commentary bit ahead of the show. It's more also just the fact that Demon's Dojo, like Levin kind of highlighted, it's not exactly a POI that has to be that direct contest, especially with them pushing more towards that northern section. But other teams, maybe not so lucky. It's Alien, Cal, they're trying to dictate whether or not they're going to have to open fire here. But their starting points, they know that there's another team not too far away from their current location, so they'll have to keep an open eye out.
Yeah, we saw lots of fights going down there this weekend yesterday. Also, big battle of spawn is going to be at Outlaw Oasis. A difficult POI to fight at. A lot of teams will choose not to fight at this drop spot. It's not that easy to do, and I think we saw a lot of teams coming from sort of Shiny Shafts and even Crime City in certain areas that are going to be third parties. I think that's why we just see Janice, Farstroki, and Focus here just sort of dipping on out and trying to settle for this sort of football pitch here. So not too concerning for those guys. Just getting off to a good start. And I think that's what we've seen throughout these last 2 weeks, or 2 groups, I should say, of competition, is that the first game is always a little bit slower. It's always a little bit more composed. Players are not as willing to fight 50-50 because all you need is one win, or you can set up the consistency. In this game, you sort of have both options available to you as the games go on, as the players continue to either thrive or not, then your choices become more limited. So we'll see how that develops. An interesting trio there as well, and Asprascard and Sined. I mean, excited to see how they do. Uncontested Seaport as well, so lots of area to work in, and the crowd go wild, Taco, for this trio. I'm sure it's the players that everyone's got their eyes on. Hopefully for them, they'll have a good day today, because it would be great to see them in the Major 2 finals. I mean, just look at the names on the screen. You'd expect to see them there as well.
But this is the revival status that everyone has been wanting to witness, essentially. And it's not just Savage from this trio. If you really break it all down, Vidil and Reason, they're also trying to find that restoration of, the former glory days, too. And it's not too far from their reach. This could be a real statement piece for them if they're able to lock in for the Major 2 finals. Still, with the competition kind of scattered around the map here, I think there's a lot of tier 2, tier 3 kind of caliber teams that could definitely be aiming for some pretty steep upsets here.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've seen throughout Group 1 and 2 so far, is that the bigger teams, the big names, they don't necessarily pick up wins in the way that we'd expect. We have seen some sort of newer trios and some lesser known trios actually picking up victory royales, and it's the teams that are more shoo-ins to be in the Major 2 finals, actually qualifying through consistency, it seems like, for the most part. So definitely would expect to see more of the same today, as Nefreezy, Wheat, and Lucia walking all the way through Magic Mosses here. This is a drop spot we've seen real great results from. Of course, that black market being so valuable for so many of our players. And of course, all the loot you can get from there, all the splashes. We've seen so many loadouts so far with just about 24, 30 splashes, something like that. It's just always a great sight to see.
Everybody's just being so friendly. That air of restraint that seems to kind of be encapsulated in the lobby right now. Giannis trying to see if he can get some opening shots here, kick things off. A handful of eliminations have already taken place, but not nearly as many as you might anticipate at this point. It just seems like all of these teams, particularly Karamuto, trying to just skirt by unnoticed. When you are in such a difficult position, sandwiched between two relatively healthy trios, it's going to be very difficult for him to wiggle his way out of this one. Focus for Strokey and Giannis, though. Focus in particular even made note, we have zero intentions of leaving Outlaw Oasis. We will fight this until the end of time here in Group 3.
What did they do in game 1? They left, didn't they? They rotated on.
No, that was the Finchick in them, but at the same time, it's always hard, right, to want to go for the early contest. You have to imagine that teams are going to want to split it, though, because they don't want to compromise themselves too early.
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, you want to make sure you can get off to a good start. That first game, you want to make sure that you sort of set the tone for the rest of the day, even if you don't win. You know, whether you go for height, whether you do just try and get that high placement game. It's going to do wonders for the points, for the confidence within the trio as well, because as every game goes where you're not picking up placement points, it is a case where you're not able to get that consistency qual.
I do take it back, by the way. It was actually the Geyser. Always have to remember. But it's a bold strategy to go for, right? When you are landing at Outlaw and you know that there's another team contesting. Because if you go up in the air, it does make you a pretty prime target. So something that these teams are going to have to keep an eye out for, especially in the case of Giannis's position. No Riley, Trulix, and Shark, though. Just kind of making the most of Foxy Floodgate, trying to take advantage. Pretty typical Surge base being established on that mountainside. Just gives you a general overview of the lobby. And Shark, he's going to be the first one trying to keep an eye out while everybody else on his team kind of settles into their own separate roles.
Yeah, lots to talk about Shark as well at the moment, being a very exciting player to watch. Excellent fragger within the scene. Of course, partnered up with Noah Rayleigh, who we all know what he's been capable of over the years, almost having a little mini resurgence at the moment with his performances, particularly in solos as well, just performing incredibly well. And this is the trio that we saw earlier on, actually just looking down at sort of pump power and the gas station nearby. And they are capable, as you can see with the quick stat, they're capable of making these top 10s in most of their games. It's just getting there is what's most important, making sure they can get through that mid-game. When they get to end-game, they're going to be getting into the later stages of it. I mean, the experience of all three, you'd expect that to be the case as well. But that's, yeah, I'm excited for this trio. I know Frankie's one that's always excited to see Pink doing well, and we'll be hoping that they'll be making their way into the Major 2 finals. And I like the confidence from Pink as well. I feel like that's something that he can really thrive off of in these sort of lobbies. You know, we are confident off spawn. He said 14-0 against Hijo, and you know, some insane numbers he's been keeping track of, I'm sure. But that confidence can just carry you through these sort of lobbies.
Hey, some pretty steep, heavy blows being exchanged right now between Thomas and Synod, as well as Anas. Both these teams kind of just trying to get their surge damage online, but could be an opening. These shields continue to crack as heavily as they have been. Synod doesn't exactly have a whole lot of white heals. He's going to have to drop down to the base of this surge tower that they've built up. A little bit more up close and personal, though, for Ricky, Zardo, and Nefario. You can tell that they want to get involved, but a team just kind of tearing through. It's going to be the real eye-opener here as Gobal now trying to see if he can apply some pressure. Back walls, but Ricky, Zardo, able to create enough space to fall back, buy themselves some time, get a little bit healthier. And it's a full disengage. They don't like the fact that they've been noticed by what appears to be Pink's trio in the distance. Smart bailout opportunity. Just don't want to risk getting third party. We saw just how often that was plaguing teams in Group 2.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a smart decision. We're more likely to see it in game number 1 as well. And what we saw yesterday was teams that had already qualified in Blaha, Mixon, and Combeck just running riot across the whole lobby. So, you know, you want to try and avoid those sort of teams later on down the line as well. The teams that haven't got as much to lose. The team that we expect to be performing well today. Lots of eyes on. Of course, with the experience of all three, that has to be the case. Is Mr. Savage, the deal and reason. I like the way they're playing these sort of surge bases as well. We've seen this quite a lot with teams. We saw it with Fred Oxy yesterday, sort of basing up on top of the black market, just ensuring that this is their sort of domain, this is their area. Nobody can sort of rotate through unharmed. And I like how Savage is sort of in another base on his own as well, just trying to get that damage as much as possible. Especially for this trio, we just want to see them in those end games. That's where they can cook. That's where they can perform at their best, with Reason and Vidil just bouncing off of each other. Savage leading the way in end game as well. It's going to be great to watch.
Definitely going to be a reoccurring theme, though, seeing teams just basing so close to those black markets. They know that they can afford to kind of catch the stragglers who are rotating a little bit later, trying to ride a little bit more of that Storm presence. But when you can afford those early ticks, Janus, spot of trouble here, though, for Strokey. Fortunately, going to be revived, brought back into the fight. Memphis Grenade, but make sure that he's back to being relatively healthy. Focus, on the other hand, he's found his first elimination, but Janus now the one who might be turned upon. You can see Focus already trying to fall back. Sadly, though, Demon King don't think that he has enough left over in the arsenal here, and he knows more company rolling up to this territory. He's gonna have to just let that Elim go. Another double revive opportunity here, and Janus wants to make sure that he's healthy, but a big win out for his trio overall, just finding those 2 Elims.
Yeah, massive for those guys there. Just getting the knocks, of course, taking a little bit of damage as well, but taking those risks, and really well done considering the amount of players that are nearby. We spoke about third parties and just the ability to block off all angles, ensure that these guys can't then rotate on through. And you can see the result of that now. Strapped and Hellfire just rotating on out, getting out of the entire area. So really well fought, and I think that the experience of players like Janus and Fast Roki are going to be so important there for this trio playing in these sort of environments. I mean, there's a few names in this lobby that you're going to pick out and say, right, these guys we expect to qualify through, and sometimes that pressure can be a little bit too much, as now we see Panzer and Appel doing what they do best on the wall. Vacan's on the other side. I don't think it's going to end well for him, as it doesn't. Appel drops into the box. Thomas gets the finish, and these guys are going to be really happy with that. 2 eliminations already. This is a trio that we had eyes on at the beginning of the day as well. A trio that we expect to go through, and hopefully for Thomas HD make his first major finals of the year after not making last season, which is a shock to everyone, I'm sure. And he will know better than anyone how difficult and tumultuous those last chance qualifiers can be.
Other conclusions, though, haven't been found just yet here, as Manus and Stan looking to try and keep the Lobby 1 hopes going. Losing their teammate does make a 2 versus 3 scenario. They've got to make sure they wrap this one up quickly, or at least find the disengage. Doesn't seem like that's the intention, though, for Manus. He looks to close in entirely, jump straight into the box, but Stan has fallen. Diesel making sure that he gets the full credit there, and a clean trio wipe right when you need it most, because they've got to get a move on. They want to make sure they don't get too far out in Narnia in comparison to the rest of the teams rotating in.
Yeah, really well played from these guys. They have the player advantage, the piece control, perfect positioning from everyone, and it's just important there that they all weren't inside of the same box. They could have those different angles. They had the walls that they could edit out on, which is nice for them as the island comes through as well. A lot more teams sort of surrounding the island than we have seen previously, so whether they'll go for it or not is another question. Probably not, in the way that this island works nowadays. And Scary Sean and Joanne Gaudet. These guys are an exciting trio to watch. It was a team that performed well last season, I should say, as well. Pick up a legal win, yeah. From
one of our few teams also representing on the controller side of things, if I'm not mistaken. So they're trying to keep the dream alive, that's for sure. Checking back in, though, with Pink, Nebs, and Kyoto. And for Pink and Nebs specifically, you just know that they want this more than anyone, because it would really just be like the unsaid finishing blow to Chino after what happened in yesterday's groups. And not only that, but everybody, of course, doesn't want to have to actually deal with their odds in the last chance qualifier. It's a big part of the reason why we see so many of these teams trying to just play through to their best strengths here. F9 and Moneymaker taking advantage of some leftover goods here in Crime City, but I know there's other teams rotating relatively close to them. Definitely trying to be a bit wary here.
Yeah, excited about Moneymaker, F9 and Faded as well. I think this is a trio that have what it takes to qualify through today. I think if I was to make a prediction, I can see them picking up a win today, honestly, landing at Crime City, all of that loot to themselves. So much potential within that trio as well. A bit of controller activity in there too, as we've seen from some of our trios. And I think they just have what it takes to just pop off in individual moments. I think where they might struggle is converting that into those consistent placements when it comes to the Major 2 finals if they make it there, but that's something that can be worked on. But for now, it's just about overcoming this hurdle, getting into those finals.
Setting up, though, for a messy outcome here at Lone Wolf Lair. Noah Riley, Shark, they might be on the receiving end of this, though. They're starting to tango with Scary Sean and Gorditi. Fortunately, Noah Riley, a little bit of a break here, having found that single elimination, but it's a whole other trio that's currently trying to break into where Shark is pinned up at. Sai and his team are not the only ones either. A whole lot of chaos essentially unfolding at the Lone Wolf.
It's just like there's 4 or 5 different trios around here, then another 2 just sort of outside the area. It's like bees around honey. Everyone wants a piece of the action. Noah Rayleigh doing what Noah Rayleigh does best in this fight. Picking up a lovely knock there onto Scary Sean. Really nicely done from him, just keeping his team in it. Of course, Trulex down in this current situation. So this is where you need your fraggers to really step up. Decisions have to be made here. Do we try and disengage, try and pick up the reboot onto Trulex? Do we try and pick up some more damage? They're 563 above right now, which is solid. But the longer they wait, the less chance they're going to get to reboot Trulex. So decisions have to be made from these guys as they are now getting aggressed from another angle at Sai. His trio is just trying to close on in. Definitely a difficult duo to fight, though. Shark and Noah Rayleigh, 2 differing styles of player, if you like. One a little bit more experienced than the other, but both have incredible skills. Noah Rayleigh does get absolutely beamed there, down to 49 HP. Gonna have to try and find a moments to breathe. Hopefully now for them, they'll be able to allow the other trios to come on through and take some of the attention away from them so that they can heal up. But this is just moments where any wrong move, Taco, can just result in everyone sort of piling on through and it all turning into a bit of a brawl.
It doesn't even seem like the 2 versus 3 was the initial issue there for Noah Riley and Shark. It's the fact that it was 2 versus everybody taking place at Lone Wolf Lair. This could be a fight that Noah Riley and Shark decide to revisit, but it all depends on where Sai and his team actually end up. Taking note of the fact that Genesis trio attempting to make a little bit of a surge base up top, but it's never safe to just try and pickaxe them out, considering that there are just so many other teams surrounding Genesis' team. They had the right idea, though. They're just going to leave. They don't have a reason to fight this in comparison to Sai's team, who clearly needs the damage.
Yeah, they need to close on through here. They need to try and find something. That's why they were so aggressive against Shark and Noah Rayleigh. They needed it. It was required, and now you can see them just trying everything. Popping those gold splashes to get this increased speed and getting some shots through from Sai, but it's not quite going to happen as he gets knocked. And it's that just desperation there from Sai and Nak and Nikez. These guys are just able to try and find a little bit of surge damage, but what they did wrong was just the fact that they were just running in as solos. Sai right there just doing it all on his own. As now NQZ goes down, and it's going to be Nak that's going to follow as well. It's just not ideal for them whatsoever. But the way that they went about that definitely could have been better. But it's so difficult to put into practice, Taco. When you are below, you want to try and make that heroic move, the heroic play, jump in the box, hit a 200. You have it all planned out in your head, and it just doesn't always go the same.
But hey, while we're on the topic of teams that love going for a good brawl, Demas, Pix, and Darm. Also another team that excels when it comes to the box fights. And Demas, Darm just cleaning up Normal. Another one of his teammates. They found themselves also kind of based around the lower ends of Lone Wolf Lair. You can see the congestion really starting to build on this next zone pool. But Savage, Reason, Vidil, they're just trying to take quick advantage of it. Keep an eye out on what's taking place on top of that Rift Island, though. One team letting Reason know you can't leave that wall open for too long when you're going for those peaks. But pushing in from the back of zone, also got to be careful of some of these other teams that might be very desperate, very underneath that surge damage threshold, and it's not like they're exactly sitting pristine above it either. Only 136 and dropping.
And a big rotate to make as well, and when this island is in the zone, it can just be very, very difficult to make those rotations. The team on top are going to be looking on down. We haven't seen an island zone for ages, it seems like, in FNCS, so this is always something that's interesting to watch here at the end. But for those guys, they just need to try and make a rotation. Roma the same as well. Borovsky unfortunately lost their teammate, so not an ideal circumstance for them either. They do have the mobility items to make their way over, but it's such a long rotation, such a long way to go. And you can see Savage right now just sort of looking out, trying to find the best way forward. But for Hellfire, Strapped, and Trippin, these guys really have a bit of a problem on their hands. Only 29 below, which is not too bad. Only a couple of shots need to connect, but that Storm Surge is going to be ticking away at their HP. Not only that, just also the players that are holding them inside of the zone as well. Their delayed rotation could be their demise here if they're not careful. Lacking in the heals department as well, Taco. So this is looking pretty dire for them. Now dropped to 71 below. They need to hop in a box at some point, and not just for Surge.
Teams in front of them and the teams right next to them. I believe it was Thomas, HD, Panzer, and Upwell who might have even taken notice of where Tripper's current team is at. But the primary issue is just Tripper was already so low, likely from having tried to clear a path earlier on, looking for peaks, looking for damage, and now they've just found themselves at the bottom of this small hill. They've got to find a way to get up and over. The bridge going to provide a little bit of natural coverage, so they'll be able to wrap around that way. Hopefully be able to push towards a less congested side. They still need damage, though, and tough scenes for a team that's definitely looking to just find their footing here. Alpol, Panzer, Thomas, though, also sitting just above that damage threshold. They know that there are plenty of opportunities nested just above them. It almost seems like Thomas is just waiting for an opportunity to really open up that floor and get the ball rolling here. He sits around on low ground for too long, though. Savage, Vidil, and Reason might be the next threat that they have to deal with, and huge blow for the Polish up-and-comers here, losing Demas to Savage's trio.
Yeah, massive for them right there. Able to pick up a huge refresh at this point in the game is absolutely crucial. Unfortunately, on the other end of the stick, it's Dom on his own. No materials. The health is not looking so great. Full shield, so he can survive if he does hop in a box and try and find the elimination, try and find that knock, which will be useful. And he is also above Storm Surge threshold as well, which is important, but it's not looking too great for them, who are sort of hail for their consistency at times as well. So we'll see how they can do in the future games, as Janice Focus and Fast Rogue here still in this game as well. They've had a couple of wobbles in the mid game, but they're still going. The experience of this trio are going to hopefully play into their favor, and they're just getting into that zone. You saw so many people just on that edge of the previous zone, so it shouldn't be a too difficult rotation for too many people. They're just keeping tabs on what's happening up there. This height sort of starting to establish itself here as well, Taco.
Plenty of teams, though, in those mid layers, trying to see if they can swap up to one higher. They want to try and begin elevating. They don't want to get caught on the low ground with all these other teams that are just kind of storming over each other, looking to get ahead of the pack. Gutenberg and Mappy, while they've got the high ground for the time being, Z, Andy, Ju, and Fincheck on the other end of it, and arguably in an advantageous position. That is until Z Andy gets a little bit more than what he bargained for. His last couple of Ball Shield potions to restore a little bit, but they are just under heavy fire from the team that they're staring down for this height control.
And they're just trying to build up and make sure the other team are not able to take that higher position. I think Ziandi and company are going to be able to hold on to that, and they are. Their pressure was sort of paid off here, as they're now the controllers of this lobby. They're looking down, they're trying to ensure they can connect and hopefully have that game one height win that we haven't seen from any of our groups so far. As now Reason, Mr. Savage, Vidil, they're getting active down on low ground right now, getting a few cracks of shield, trying to find some damage, get that refresh coming as long as they, as quickly as they can. Almost HD on the bottom of the screen as well. They're playing on that sort of lower section of the map. looking to try and get as much damage through as possible because they're 12 below, so they need everything possible right now, including a little bit of a refresh to go along with it. This is two very experienced trios in a very similar stage of the map right now.
But Thomas, he's got control of that frontside low, and Revscar is going to be a victim for it. Still, Thomas can't get to the body just yet. Neb's trying to hold him off, but Nebs, he's hoping that he could just break through. Instead, Thomas does finally get that full elimination credit onto us, but it comes at a cost. Uppel having just been knocked and taken out of the fight here. Thomas will get a little bit of revenge, though, onto Moneymaker, but it's all about the frontside low control and trying to make sure that they stay on top of it. However, they've lost it to Vidil, Reason, and Savage, who are currently looking to just chop out as many teams from above them as possible. They want to make sure that they stay uncontested on this layer, and Savage is just building ahead, Tarping creating so much space for them.
Really good. Look at that on height as well as Vox, Clement, and Splig all the way up there, looking low on materials, though, as Mr. Savage continues plowing through this low ground section. Vinchet going down there, getting a huge elimination onto him, and this is so many materials now for this tree. You can see how much control they have on this low ground area. So much of these builds are theirs. They have so much edit control as well. Nobody's even bothering trying to go down, and the height now is where the battle is at. Akira, Karama, and that trio are looking to take control of that height, as Mappy and Rakuzan are still in the game as well, but albeit a little bit weakened. Mr. Savage is still looking back. They're still just trying to control as much of that low ground as possible. We have a couple of heal-off players as well. They're trying to make their way inside of the zone. It's all going on the low ground as now height seems a little bit more in control.
And Khabib, they've taken the opportunity now for that elevation, but at the same time, it's not necessarily panning out in their favor just yet, because on the low ground, Mr. Savage still breaking through with Vidil and Reason right next to them. They are playing so tight-knit to each other that Victor Royale might just be within their reach. They're trying to ensure that they can lock this one in, make everybody realize that it's for a good reason they came through together. Lucia, Clement, they're also going to drop it. They're also going to be taken out the moment that they touch base here with Reason. Karama still up above, trying to ensure that they can keep that high ground position. But Savage, Vidil, Reason, this is the breath of fresh air they needed. This is the moment of relief to restore their HP.
High ground versus low ground, but no, Mr. Savage goes down. It's an early knock for Karama right there, who does a great job, but Akira's lost his teammate in Karama, so now it's all down to a 2v2. All up to Werex, who does clutch up, takes down the deal, and it's Akira, Karama, and Werex that make their way into the Major 2 finals in style.
Vidil, Savage, and Reason now, they've got to keep the content going, right? You don't want to call off a good thing this early on, but a huge congratulations to Karama there. Not an easy one by any means, but they took full advantage of that height transition and just made sure to be the ultimate janitorial crew with those cleanups.
Yeah, really well played from both of those teams, really. They were looking very, very strong, and it was just a classic high ground versus low ground. I think it was Akira, I should say, who got the first knock onto Mr. Savage, just initiated that fight, dropped on down. They had that control, the advantage from up above, so it wasn't quite to be for Mr. Savage, but really great job from these guys. Frankie, the desk, what do you make of that?
I thought that was a fantastic start to the Group 3 action. And Levin, I know you said you were joking about Mr. Savage potentially taking the first victory royale, but they came so close to making it a serious prediction. Meanwhile, though, props to Akira's trio. They played that final zone so well. It means we're not going to get the clash, sadly, with Pink at Demon's Dojo, but let's face it, Takata, we probably weren't going to get that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't going to be that off-spawn battle, but I mean, good news for Pink. He might be able to pick up a bit of extra loot now, but also bad news, because if he does end up qualifying, he might have to go up against Akira, Karama, and Werex once again. Congratulations to them for making it.
I'm a big fan of this team. I think you look at Akira, and obviously he's had his own journey throughout this year. That's been fun to watch him go against the poles. But on this team with Karama and Werex, I mean, again, both of those guys, talented French players. I've been a big fan of Karama actually for quite a while. I remember commentating like a random PlayStation Cup in maybe like 2023 or something. And he was just phenomenal, even in that. And ever since then, he's continued to go strength to strength. So congrats to these guys. They definitely deserve their spot in the final.
interesting to me, though, that Akira used to play with Podesai. Podesai swaps out Akira for Artskill, saying that Artskill is the better fragger. And yet Akira ending that with his trio on something like 15 eliminations, and Akira's got 5 of those. So let's hope we're going to see some more French-on-French action as we continue the season, boys. And we're going to head to a break right now and continue our chat after this break. Welcome back to FNCX, and congratulations to Akira, Karama and Werix, because they took our first game of the day, and that means they booked their spot already in next weekend's Major 2 Grand Finals. And a trio that came incredibly close to taking it from them was Mr. Savage, Reason and Vidil. And we spent a long time talking about these guys in the pre-show 11, because this is a trio we were not expecting. Mr. Savage had retired, Vidil was in America last season, and they've come together and something magic is happening.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things about this team is obviously because it was just such a last-minute arrangement, there was a lot of concern about whether or not they'd be able to figure things out, you know? I'm going to shamelessly plug my podcast again, Fantasia, but we interviewed Mr. Savage on it right after he announced he was coming back. And we were like, oh, so what the role's going to be? And he was like, yeah, I don't really know. I guess a Reason's IGLing or something. Like, you know, like, it was just all over the place, right? They were like, I don't know where we're landing. I don't know who's IGLing, who's doing what role, right? But they're slowly starting to figure things out, right? And we're seeing some of that cohesion in the end games as well. It was really nice to see them in this game, just claiming low ground layers and really just sort of snuffing out anybody from being able to take them away from frontside low.
Yeah, it was looking a little too good, Levin. I mean, I'm almost convinced, you know, they were like top 2, and then Savage like took a peek at his right monitor, 20,000 viewers. He's like, you know what? Let's extend this a little longer. We still got 4 more potential games to play out. Take the top 2, almost double-digit elims. I mean, incredible job of controlling low, and even in those last moments, I think they picked up an elim or 2 on Akira's trio on height. So overall, this is an amazing start for this trio.
We were seeing, you know, so many different trios going for the high ground. But I have to say, I feel like the interesting stuff was happening on the lower layers. It's interesting to see Thomas's trio in 8th, because when we were watching him, I was just living for seeing Thomas really leading the charge. Unfortunately, they lost Upland in the process of trying to dominate the low grounds. But it was refreshing to see how re-energized these guys are looking to Carter.
Yeah, I mean, it was looking very good. They were a bit below Storm Surge, so in the late game, they found a refresh, ended up going above, but I don't know if they got too greedy or kind of what went wrong, but they went for that knockdown and tried getting extra loot, which kind of led to Upple getting knocked down. But you can see that their synergy, their chemistry is as strong as ever, despite them having formed later on in the season, Levin.
No, absolutely. But look, I mean, it's clear what went wrong here, right? They obviously go for the refresh and they just stay too long, right? And what do we know about Fortnite? When the zone's pulling against you and you sort of stay in backside too long and the zone's pulling away and you have all these teams on congested looking to fight, like you eventually will just get caught out, right? You're playing a dangerous game. So again, it's understandable why they were going for the fight here. Of course, you want the refresh, you need the extra loot, the mats, but they maybe stayed just an inch too long and it cost them there towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, they still got enough eliminations, though, where I believe they'll, you know, be in a decent spot on the leaderboard, as we already saw. So, I mean, it is top 5 after those 5 trios that already qualified through the VR. So I think, you know, they're off to a good start. I'm not worried.
I wonder if we can check out the leaderboard again, because actually we didn't get to mention all the big names that are in the lobby tonight, but there are quite a lot. And we saw the likes of Noah, Trulex, and Shark having a great start. I'm interested to see if they're able to work their way up the leaderboard towards the end of today, because it unfortunately didn't go their way after what looked like a strong start. Also, Janice Focus and Fast Roki, they seem to have some mid-game issues previously, but they were actually really good for eliminations, Takata. Something like 6th for eliminations, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job even earlier on. I think in 8th zone, they already had picked up quite a good amount of elims. They were getting those refreshes when they needed to, but they did end up going down, I believe, in 6th place throughout this match. So, I mean, top 6 with a decent amount of elims, that's not bad at all, right, Levin?
Yeah, no, it's a decent start. Again, it's, you know, 5 long games. You got to sort of get your momentum going. We've seen teams already in the group stage so far have maybe a bad start or a good start, and then you sort of like go quiet for a couple games, and maybe you win the last game. We have that big final game 5, so there's still a long way to go.
Levin, are you surprised to see Pink's trio not picking up any elims in that first game?
Somewhat, yeah, I guess you could say it's interesting, right? With how these guys play at times, you often see, you know, them sort of fighting in like that Magic Mosses area a lot in the early game, and sometimes you pick up some elims there. But generally with these guys, like when you have Nebs and Kira on your team, you're gonna be above on thresholds without having eliminations, because those two have some of the best aim in Fortnite, right? So they're constantly getting damage all throughout the game with their ARs, long range, you know, rather than maybe, you know, closing out fights. So again, not the best game one for these guys, but you know, when I don't see no elims, I'm not too worried.
But would you not be worried, though, if we got to game 3, say, and they still haven't got any elims? Because, yes, that's going to get you through the mid-game, getting all those tags, but it's not going to get you to the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, this is game 3. 3 games without an elim. That's
scary. You know?
That's scary. Yeah, like, that's, you know what I mean? It's like,
listen, I'm here to ask all the really important questions, okay? And guess what? We don't have to hear any more of them because we're ready to board the battle bus again for game number 2. Let's head back to Mini Miner and Taco.
Thanks so much, Frankie. Now let's hope they get some eliminations in the first 3 games here. That would be nice. That would be interesting if they don't. But I mean, that game was so full of some of our big names. We saw so many of them in that end game there, Taco. And I mean, I think the way that Mr. Savage played that sort of low ground was really, really impressive. So not really too concerned about them either.
Just so many teams that essentially got caught in the congested terrain that was involved with the low ground, right? But part of that's also just due to the fact that we saw people being way too polite. This is kind of something where you expect the pace to pick up a little bit as the games develop throughout the course of today's 5 matches. And with game 2 ready to go, we can see what happens next.
Lots of friendliness so far at the beginning of the games. I think things are going to start to get a little bit less so as we keep progressing through. Because remember, this is Group 3. This is going to be the chance for a lot of these players, for every single one of these players, to qualify through to the Major 2 finals. The last chance qualifier being next week is not a lobby that you want to find yourself in. So picking up a victory royale today, picking up a top 5 in consistency, going to be oh so important for our teams. And we haven't necessarily seen any massive upsets so far, you could say. So we'll have to see if today could provide one of those. But from the way that our top teams played that first game, I don't think it's going to happen today.
Just waiting to see whether or not Genesis trio actually gets a little bit more aggressive early on against the likes of Ziandi, Finchek, and Ju. Love the fact that we did see intentions, though, of a little bit of that high ground play, a little bit of an attempt to overtake coming out of Ziandi, Finchek, and Ju. Fortunately, didn't pan out the way that they would have hoped, but yeah, as far as right now is concerned, they're not looking to do anything early on in comparison to teams elsewhere, like Kind, just immediately breaking through. Not a whole lot of materials for teams to work with. Jewel trying to see if he can escape, but Kind switches his direction, the full 180 pivot, and he'll be able to go for the double revive now onto Props. Some early eliminations spilling in their favor.
A really interesting place to fight right there, and especially since now Fast Roki, Focus, and Giannis can sort of make their way on over. So I don't think the fighting's quite over for these guys yet. And this sort of area of the map can be quite important for these teams, because of course there's a lot of really quick farmable metal in these areas. So you can sort of see why, but look at that. Focus just leaving his back exposed, getting absolutely beamed in the process as well. And this hasn't been a particularly solid start, really, from Fast Roki and Janice and Focus. It's not really been the start they would have liked here from this second game. We saw them sort of getting in that geyser and getting away in game 1. This game seemingly a little bit different, landing in a different sort of area of this side of the map. And now they're dipping as a duo. This has just not been the ideal start they would have liked.
Just evident that they thought there'd be more opportunity for a clear third party, but that exchange was just so quickly wrapped up in the first place by Kind's trio. There wasn't really any sort of wiggle room for Janice and them to essentially enter the conversation. Fakey, Marco, and Isma, shout outs to the Bear Army representation, that's for sure. And inside of the vault right now, taking advantage of what Lone Wolf has to offer. Kind of expecting that they'll have to exchange blows soon enough. And Lynx, they've caught off Janice from the rest of his team. He's not going to be able to go for backup anytime soon here. He will be knocked and eliminated by Lynx. And now it's only for Strokey left to tell the tale. Just a rapid collapse here in game 2 for Janice's trio so far.
I'm not quite sure what they're cooking here. They're kind of running around and just trying to find some loot, trying to find some way of escaping. I'm not quite sure what the plan is here. I'm guessing they just didn't have a great drop there at Outlaw, so they had to sort of just try and find any way to stay in this game. Now it's all up to Fast Roki, and I'm just not sure how this game's going to go for them. They're missing out on so much of that early loot, that early surge. So we'll have to see how those guys can continue this game if they do stay in it. Reason, Mr. Savage Vidal staying in it for the content. I like that point of view. I like that. 20,000 viewers, as Stakata rightly said, and why not put on a show for them? I think that's the right way to go about it. But really impressed with how they claimed that low ground that last game. They really looked like they were very confident, and it wasn't necessarily a loss for them. It was just not quite the win.
Oh, Props, turn around.
Oh,
Look
no.
back, buddy.
Oh,
He has
no.
no chance. Luckily for him, it's not an immediate knock, but it might as well be Ziandi fully keying, trying to just tear his way into the box, but surprising shot back. Props going to be able to fend for his life, and it's going to be Ziandi actually on the back foot, but he's got Ju right there beside him, now trying to pick up what he'd started. Kind and his team, the Mini, they have been scrappy from the get-go, and doesn't seem like they're willing to fold here. And Ziandi, Finchek, Ju, they're going to opt to actually back off. They did get a little bit of damage, but those blows a little bit too steep for either side to want to continue just yet.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fighting, a lot of aggression in that sort of side of the map, and think it's all sort of come down to the fact that Janice's trio just didn't have the greatest off spawn, so they've had to sort of pick up pieces here, there, and everywhere. That just creates a chain reaction of all these teams trying to third party, and it's lots of teams coming on over to that area, which is not easy for anyone at that current stage. It's now Noah Rayleigh, Trulex, and Shark. They're a team that we sort of associate with maybe Trulex picking up those sort of surge-based strategies. We all know about how he likes to play the game. For Thomas HD, this is something that we saw from them previously as well, just picking up a lot of tags using this mythic drum gun. I like the way that they are sort of splitting these bases as well. They're able to get a lot more damage from there. And even this mythic drum gun, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best weapon from range, but when you got Thomas HD on it, it's a force to be reckoned with that sort of thermal scope on it.
It's more looking at the triangle of doom inside of that surge base setup. Vacant might meet his own doom if he's not careful. Gonna actually choose to just play the Chug Jug for the time being, wait for the rest of his teammates to catch up to where he was at. Going in for a rather aggressive fight, though. They clearly want to take out this trio that's right in front of them, but Rio just playing it safe. They know if they expose themselves for too long, a third party could definitely stroll in and become a part of this conversation, but Tech not able to get through just yet. Vacant now looking for a separate angle approach. The amount of materials being spent already here, though, Minnie, this is one of those fights where it has to find some form of a conclusion, because both of these teams, they'd much rather just be able to get their surge damage online early and then focus more so on the rotates. It's just not coming to a close anytime soon here, though.
Yeah, I think we see this a lot, you know, after maybe game one, but oh no, there you go, as we say it. What do they call it? Commentator's curse? Something along those lines. As this team does go down, it's now what to Panda and Tay to clutch up. It's these fights that we often see after game number one's passiveness, to where they think, right, how are we going to find Surge? Let's get inside of these fights. And for Kale, Bacon, and Koita, they're able to find lots of different angles, lots of opportunities here to pick up some damage, and seemingly successfully doing it as well. As now it's all up to Vacant, who does do very well, actually. It's not quite going to be their time, as Vacant does manage to pick up a lovely knock right there. Really great job from him. I thought he might have been getting in a bit of a difficult situation, but Vacant clutching up for his team.
Nice shots from Faded. Just typical surge base. One site to the next, looking to just get whatever damage you can. And Fortnite and Moneymaker, definitely a trio that's had their own, share of troubles throughout the course of some of these FNCSs. Big trouble here, though, for Yzma, having already been knocked at Lone Wolf Lair. We knew that they would have neighbors soon enough. Sadly, Pradovsky, Kim, much like game one, they seem to be clear about fighting things out here at Lone Wolf Lair. And Feki, he's just going to opt to try and get out of this one. Doesn't want to stick around for much longer. Might still be able to play for the reboot.
Lynx here as well as the team that we saw fighting earlier on. Again, for Stan, the Manners is just looking pretty dire. No materials, no time left in the lobby. It's over for game two for that trio. But for Lynx and Jarman, his trio, they're looking pretty good here. I think that's going to be real crucial pickups for them as they continue throughout this game. It's those easy eliminations that can really boost you in terms of the Storm Surge later on. Allows you to be a little bit less aggressive, a little bit less active in those later stages of the games where everything can go wrong at one misplaced build, one misstep. So really nice from that trio. And Pink, Nebs, and Kiro, they picked up on Elim. So we won't be seeing 3 games with that in Elim for them.
They won't be waiting.
They will not be waiting. But I mean,
this would have some choice words, though, if that were the case.
I think so. I would be very surprised. But I'm interested to see what these guys can do. I know Pink and Nebs in particular have always been very, very strong throughout a season. They've always looked really good, and it's sort of been the storyline that we've often talked about on the desk with Nebs, is like, can he do it when it goes into the major finals? And often the answer, unfortunately, is no. He hasn't quite performed at that level when it comes to later stages of a season, the major finals, the grand finals. But he's looked so good earlier on, so it's always interesting to see what sort of type of nebs we're going to get whenever we load up into a new lobby. And I really want to see them make the Major 2 finals, even just to answer that question. Is it still the case here in 2025?
Panzer's team kind of along the same notes there. Another team that's trying to sort of answer the calls for that form of competitive pressure, right? Everybody has got their eyes on what's deemed as technically public enemy #1 of EU. But after that first game performance, Panzer, Uppel, Thomas, they look like they're setting up to really just find their rhythm. They're just waiting for everything to kind of click, because we know that they have more than enough potential. It's realistically just about making sure that they just find the beats that are going to hit their mark.
Yeah, and I think they're looking much better from what we saw last season with Thomas. I know when we were sort of leading up to the FNCS weeks last season, we didn't necessarily see the greatest performances out of Thomas, Tripp, and Fredoxy, and it was always going in with questions, whereas now they seem to be going into it with a lot more solidity. I know Takata talked about it on the desk, how their divisional cup results have been good. I think top 5 in a couple of the weeks, 6th in one of them as well. And just seems like there's a little bit more solidity, a little bit more assertiveness in their gameplay now, whereas there was more questions last season. So it's not as doubtful that they'll make it through. You're sort of riding on their experience last season. It wasn't quite enough to carry them over, but this time they do seem like a more well-rounded team with Panzer and Uppel. And I mean, for those guys, they've just been on a tear as well. So I think it's going to be a very exciting trio to watch if and when they do make the Major 2 finals.
Head on a swivel here, though, for Tripper, and just constantly checking all of his flanks, trying to ensure that no one's really going to threaten this B line that they've sort of set themselves on to get into the next zone. Tripper, and definitely aware of the fact that there was another team. Not sure if he knew it was Pink's team necessarily, but you always have to anticipate that there's somebody else after you when you're going for some of those later rotates. And considering that the lobby has gotten a little bit more active after everybody kind of tries to settle in post game 1, teams like Keith and Gova, Roxy taking advantage of the campfires while they make their way into this next edge zone.
46 players trying to make their first FNCS finals. That's crazy. That's almost half the lobby that's could be first-time FNCS finalists here. So just shows how this sort of format can really unearth some talent that maybe we haven't seen before. Is often the case when there's sort of teams that you don't necessarily know too much about picking up victory royales, and it's really impressive to see them sort of step up to this level of lobby and then go ahead and win. So excited to see which of those will be able to actually make their way into the finals. Invaluable experience from a lot of those players that maybe haven't had as much experience, but on the complete other end of things, Mr. Savage, Vidil, Reason, the most experience in this lobby, I'm sure as well. It's just, how do they use that experience? How do they use their competitive nous to navigate these lobbies? And I think this is why we see them just all so in sync, despite the fact, as Levin mentioned, they haven't necessarily had that cohesiveness, togetherness, the understanding as to how they're necessarily going to play. It doesn't really matter when you have that experience as a trio. Everyone sort of almost fills into their own roles as things go on, and it's not as concerning as if it was maybe a team that hadn't had that experience in these lobbies. So almost no doubt that they'll make their way through, just thinking about the names and the caliber of player that they are.
For sure, and this is also starting to look a little bit more reminiscent of what we saw in Group 2 yesterday. Just teams looking to kind of weather the storm, play their heels as often as possible. Ricky, though, was more so out of a forced kind of scenario here. And Gobal, Roxy, they want this damage. They want these E-limbs. Gobal's going to find the first one onto Ricky, and sure enough, shortly after, his teammate's going to fall right next to him. Big couple of pickups here. They're going to need as much as they can get when they continue to kind of pave their way forward in this match. A little bit of a look back, though, in terms of what was happening with Panzer, Thomas, and Uppel. Just tragic scenes, though. That heavy Fakey of all people. Don't like to see this, though. Thomas and Panzer. When they found that initial elimination onto Fakey, you would never expect that they would kind of be in a little bit more of the chalk scenario that we see them in right now. Marco, on the other hand, not exactly the healthiest, but it's just the fact that they've lost Uppel in the first place. The fact that something could go so wrong for them at this stage. And Marco just executed that so well between Panzer and Thomas, making sure to cut off any sort of escape route. But they're going to have to backtrack here, Minnie. They've got to make sure that they bring Uppel back into this one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to set them back a couple of paces here in this game. They're going to be chasing, not just literally in terms of Storm, but also that the damage that they're going to have to now lose from rebooting Uppel. So lots of questions to be answered from that trio. And again, we see a position for the island to be close here, and for Guden, Matthew's trio, they're taking control of that position. It often seems to be the case when the first team is up here. They sort of are the ones that continue to stay up. There's no other real contestation like we've seen previously. So they were able to have that position. So valuable for players that want to get that damage done from all the way up above there. And a team that need to get the damage done. They were a trio that had an interesting start to the game. 400 below for Janice, Fast, Roki, and Focus. The fact that they have loot is surprising to me, but look who they're shooting. Look what's just happened. The explosion of the truck is going to send Vidil, Mr. Savage, and Reason into a whole frenzy. This fight is now starting to get a little bit more active as Focus, Janice, and Fast, Roki come involved and get involved in this fight, in a much-needed fight for them as well. 250 damage below, but they're getting involved. Mr. Savage trying to do everything he can to escape, but it's not going to be enough as Focus gets straight inside of the box, connects with a huge shot and the finish, which is only going to put them 65 below. Janice tries to go in from another angle as well. It's the deal that goes down as well. It's only Reason, the final piece of the puzzle to take out, and a really, really well executed Storm Surge fight. You can see how dire of a situation that they were in right there, Taco. 460 below, now they're 200 above.
They can't afford to let off the gas anytime soon, though. While it was a big resurgence for them finding that trio elimination onto Savage's team, they've got to worry about Velry rolling up right behind them. Another team that's also desperate to get their surge damage up above the threshold needed. They're falling so rapidly below. Fortunately for Forstroki's team, they've got a little bit of indirect help from the distance. Teams kind of spraying in to where this box fight is taking place, and Velry now looking for an upward scramble up and over. Focus gonna opt to drop below, make sure that Yanis doesn't get isolated in the process here. So they use up the remaining splashes to get Yanis back to full HP. These surge ticks, though, they are quite a problem here for Henry's team. And so sure enough, the moment that they see Focus on the go, they want to try and close in on him. They're trying to lock this down. They need the eliminations now more than ever, but Kenty immediately fired upon. Just took 1 second too long of not opening up the shot there, and Focus taking full advantage of it. Now can continue to move out of the situation that we had once seen them in, and considering that they were in such tatters to begin this lobby with Minnie, the recovery is incredible.
Those fights, they can really turn your game around, and the fact that they managed to eliminate both trios right there just speaks volumes about what to expect from this trio. I said at the beginning what was going on technically with what they were trying to do, and unfortunately it wasn't looking so good, but now it's looking even better. What's not looking great here though for Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer? We spoke about it early on, the fact that they're going to need to sort of catch up with this lobby now. They're almost late to the party as Panzer now down and out. Was it worth the reboot onto Uppel that we saw him going down earlier? Now they're looking at a pretty difficult situation as well, as Thomas and Uppel just haven't got that white HP. The gas station's going to explode as well, so they have to try and create a little bit of space before they get caught in that whole problem as well. And look at this, Thomas down to 1 HP, still getting looked at from so many people as well. He's going to get this shield off, but he's only going to get to 51 effective HP because they got no Weiss.
Everybody knows that that duo is in trouble. Thomas and Uppel are going to have to spend entirely too much time even just looking to survive, and it's time that they wish they could be spending looking for a more consistent refresh. Instead, they're just not healthy enough. They have to hope that Forstroki makes the first move, essentially, because solo would be their best opportunity to try and bring this one back. Getting the siphon on top of just a little bit of additional materials and whatnot could go a long way for Thomas and Uppel, but I fear playing from this back of zone, they're just going to get too caught up in the action. The lobby focus might just overwhelm them. Wheat, Lucia, and Nafrizi just keeping tabs on where Trulex's team is at for the time being. You can tell that they want to try and maybe push forward here, but they're also based in a relatively safe position here. The problem, though, Mini, is seeing that damage threshold tick, and it's working against them. If they just turn around, though, they might find prime opportunities.
I want to see what happened here with Janice and Focus. Yeah, just the storm. Just the storm. Really, really unfortunate for them. Seems like whenever we talk good about them, they don't do as great, and then whenever things weren't going well for them, they could flick the switch. So important moments there for Fast Roki to try and clutch up, and it was those fights in the storm, wasn't it, that set them back. For Pixstarm and Demas now, they're the focus of everyone's attention, it seems like, being able to do some return fire as well, which is good enough for now, but it's not quite going to stop them from getting this focus on, as every single other team now seemingly looking into this area too. Splick also inside of a bit of a fight right now. That's Uppel. So now it's all up to Thomas, and Thomas goes down as well. It's all over for that trio in this game. A couple of our big names are out, and there's another one. Clement going down as well to Vox and Splick, who are still just in a complete madness, a complete frenzy right now inside of these boxes. Splick gets cracked. It's only going to encourage even more fire from multiple angles. But for Wheat, Lucia, and Nefrizi, this is a huge pickup, a huge refresh, and a huge amount of damage for them as well in this situation.
Paranoia has to be building currently for a lot of these teams, because you can just hear the shots being fired off every which way. Pixstarm, Demas, though, in a little bit of spot of trouble, but this is a little bit of relief here. Darkies having been eliminated, 6 elims in tow, and most importantly still, a plethora of splashes here, Mini, largely due to that backwoods black market. But Demas, Darm, Pix, they're just waiting. They've created so much space, though, by taking out the teams closest to them.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Unfortunate for Fast Roki. They just got caught in that fight in the storm, lost his teammates. It's only going to end one way, as everyone else was getting damaged while he was stood stagnant. Not ideal for them, but for Lucia, Wheat, and Nefrizi, these guys are looking in a much healthier state. All 3 of them still alive. Only 1 elimination, but it's all they need for now. The loot's looking great. They've got that exotic Chug Jug, which can just give you so much flexibility in endgame. Nefrizi spots an opening, but only going to connect with 1 shot. There's so many players now on this sort of west side of the zone. Still nobody on height necessarily to worry about. As I say that, Strapped, Hellfire, and Trippin are trying to poise for that position. It's all about where this next zone pulls. They'll be hoping that it pulls back to them. We have seen players and teams that are taking height this early, Taco, not necessarily work out for them because they just run out of steam. Oh, this team going to be different.
Strat wants to be different, but they've got to deal with the likes of Perovsky first. Tripper and just going to make the jump, go in for the all-out assault here. Just boxing a little bit higher up from where Perovsky's team is at. Wants to get that connection if possible, but Tripper definitely wary of those teams in the lower layers. They are just so elevated in comparison to the rest of this lobby, though, Mini. It's all about control at this point. They just need to make sure that they're putting down the necessary suppressive fire. Tripper even making sure to continue building a little bit further ahead. But the zone pool is going to keep them on the move here as other teams continue to get caught up in the mix. Shark, Trulex, Noah Riley down in the low ground. They've got scenic views, though, onto the spot of trouble that Moneymaker's in. Clay's also trying to see if he can just break through, but another knock just kind of meeting the board of eliminations here. And Trulex, steady mind as ever, just trying to lead his team to victory.
Lucia not looking in quite as nice of a situation now as Nefrizi does go down. Fincheck also going to be picked up here from these guys, going to keep them going for now. As now the trio turns into a duo. So for Lucia and Wheat, they're going to try and use these Chug Jugs, hope that the zone pulls back, which it does. So they're able to stay in that box, which is really nice for them. Really good news as well for the teams on the low ground. Even for height, they can just run over their own builds. Going to save them so much materials. And for Nebs, Kiro, Pink, we get to see them in the end game here. We get to see them fragging out. See what they can do.
They don't have control of secondary height just yet, though. They're trying to make sure that they clear out some of the teams that are on the same layer as them. Z, Andy in their sights. All 3 members from Peak's trio just making sure to stay as close to it as possible. And the pre-edit play works in their favor. They knew Z, Andy essentially had nowhere left to run. Ju, another one that's going to meet his demise here to Pink's team. And Nabs just continuing to find the tags necessary. A lot of opening shots here. We were talking about that zone pullback in favor of some teams on the low ground. It's also a huge benefit to Tripper's team and how many builds they've committed to the high ground.
Yeah, they can just walk right back over what they've been able to build already. keeping on that suppressive fire as well, just getting rid of that second height. You can see how close they were to that high ground. Now it's completely swatted away as everyone's just deciding to focus their attempts on low ground. There's no Aurelian Shark need to try and pick up the pieces of their trio with Trulex down. Not quite together yet, but they're back now as a duo. The problem is right now they need a refresh. They need those materials. Shark has only got 10 bills, no Aureli with nothing on him, so they're just sneaking around. They're trying to look for something, anything to work. A little drop down, a potential spray down is going to be on the cards. They do find a huge knock right there onto twos. That's going to be absolutely massive for them in their chance for this end game, as No Ready gets right back inside the box, hits another shot to Kami. It's not going to be enough as he gets eliminated in the back, and so does Shark. Their duo run is over, and now it's all up to Nebs.
And Neb's trying to do what he can to just get a couple more placements. Demas, Darman, Pix, though, relatively healthy here in the low ground where they play best. Demas just waiting to see if there's any sort of openings, any sort of teams left to clear out here. But I'm thinking about the high ground, thinking about Tripper and Srap. Hellfire's dropped down into the mix below. He's trying to clear out, create a little bit of disruption here inside of those lower layers, but Demas, Darman, Pix, they might just do the heavy lifting, but Tripper knows he can't afford to stay on height forever. Their build's just too thin. They need to find another refresh, but with so few players remaining, they might just have to go all-out battle here.
Yeah, more pressure needed here from high if they want any chance of surviving here. We got Pix, Darman, Demas all the way on the low ground, doing exactly what they do best, controlling as much of that position as possible. Lucia and We are the only other team left inside of this lobby, down to a duo at least as well. So Lucia healing up inside of the storm. It's not going to be enough, though. He's going to have to try and make his way back inside of the storm circle, as Wheat does as well. Darman, Demas, and Pix, they're all down there as well. Srap drops down, hits a huge shot onto Wheat, takes him out as well, as Hellfire needs to try and find a shot as well. All of that high ground dominance has now come down to this duo. Demas inside of the box. Hellfire tries to hit a home run, doesn't quite connect though, as it's now up to Trippin. Can he make it happen? He's got the heal off potential. He's going to get tagged all the way in the back, and it's not going to be enough for Trippin. It's going to be Pix, Darm, and Demas that take home the victory.
You don't need consistency when you're able to just create your own success here. Pix, Darm, and Demas just absolutely brawling it out inside of that low ground territory, Mini. They weren't even remotely concerned with height. They were only fixated on just clearing out any teams, any duos, individuals that actually came their way. And it's just so impressive because this is what really locked them in as being a team to take note of in Major 1. But looking at them now, this isn't a team that looks like they're in, kind of that rookie season sort of territory.
Yeah, no, they're looking very, very strong. They're looking very confident. And with the way that they played that low ground, they played like FNCS veterans, just the way they were able to claim so much space. And then when it came down to it, the eliminations, the shots, the control that they had in that final fight, so important and so impactful for them to see themselves into the Major 2 finals. I'm sure the Dev's going to be very excited about that. Frankie, what do you got?
I am so excited. You were absolutely accurate on that one, Mini Minor, because the guys were saying, we were watching in the green room, and 1 second you see Demas, Darman, and Pix with no eliminations. You cut back to them a few seconds later, suddenly 6 eliminations to Carter, and now the victory royale as well.
You should have seen me and Levin's reaction. We could not believe it. I've got to be like a D1 Demas, Darman, Pix fanboy at this point, because I was way too excited when we cut back. 6 eliminations, cap mats, full loot. From that, they were so set up that they just played the full uncongested side. I mean, you can see how they started to pick up these eliminations. They were playing sneaky. They were playing it safe. And even though the odds might not be in their favor, they still find a way to make it out alive.
There's no way he just lived that with 1 HP. That is ridiculous. Oh my goodness. I mean, they really turned this game on its head, right? They were already a team that you would have expected to make it deep into this game, but that fight there where they just take down 6 players in a matter of moments really just secured the win for them, because from that point onwards, they had nothing else to worry about in this game other than good positioning, and they know how to do that better than anybody else in this lobby. They stayed frontside low for a lot of this endgame, and yes, towards the end, right, the Danish boys gave them, sort of a tough task, but it was never going to be enough. Demas, Darman, Pix, well played. It's funny because obviously the last season, right, their group's performance, they sort of like dragged it out a little bit, they gave us a bit of a show over the course of the games. This time around, game 2, let's get it done, let's secure our spot and chill for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, that's all she wrote. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about our other trios from game number 2. Guys, I've got really bad news. Team of Starman Picks just got a victory royale, which means we don't get to see them playing until next weekend, and I'm absolutely devastated. I love the disruption that this trio brings to the lobby, but that means I'm also delighted that we will see them as in contention for the Blade of Champions Stop at 11 next weekend. Sorry, every time I speak, I see Levin make a face. I'm just like, have I done good? Have I done good, Mr. Levin, sir? Have I done good? And you know what? Let's talk about who did do good in game number 2, because it was such a closely run thing in that final end game, and I was so excited to see Lucia and Wheat in the lower ground as a duo. They were picking up eliminations, even though they unfortunately lost in the Frizzy 11.
Yeah, you know what? This team is a real sleeper team. You know, all three of them have experience playing in grand finals. Lusher and the Frizzy in particular have been around for so long. They're part of the furniture of EU compared to Fortnite at this point now. And it's funny that they actually sort of have been the most consistent team on the day. And Demon Starman Picks, you know, in a lot of the Div Week finals that I've watched where they've had some struggles to Carter, a lot of the time it's actually been this team that's been their kryptonite, right? Because these guys are obviously at Magic Mosses, and there's been a lot of instances I've watched where it's been this team versus Demons' team fighting in Magic Mosses, and this team's actually come out on top, right? So it's good to see both of them being able to thrive in the same lobby at the same time. In the case of Lusher and Wheat though, Wheat in particular is a really interesting player to me because I remember the first time I ever heard about him, he was sort of like pitched to me as like this next great fragger from the CIS region. And even though he never maybe got to those heights, it's good to see him finding some form here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you said yourself, #1 on the consistency leaderboard, which puts him at 3rd place, 117 points. I mean, even now that Demon Starman Picks are no longer in the match, I mean, they had no troubles with them being in the match, getting back-to-back 3rd places, but having them not around, it'll be looking good. But second page here, Scrapped, Hellfire, and Trip. This was a trio that did not have any issues maintaining the high ground. I don't think a single team contested them. They basically held height the whole end game. Maybe they got some luck with zones, if you want to talk about that, Levin, but I mean, overall, they played it by the book.
Yeah, you're an amazing host, mate. No, look, setting me up there. I think the big thing of Strapped, Trippin', and Hellfire is, yes, it was a very different game, because if you watch game 1, the high ground takes were just insane. Like, so much change, so much chaos. Every time you looked, there was a different team up there. This game, they held it, but they also invested a lot in it to start off with, right? You know, they were sort of gambling on zone, pulling towards them. They invested a lot to the point where even if it hadn't pulled, you know, they were going to be fine. But then the actual pullbacks in the moving zones were just so favorable to them, right? We just kept getting the pullbacks of doom. And it sort of just allowed them to keep height a bit longer there. Unfortunately not to get the win, but great game 2 for them.
Going into this season, I was a bit gutted when I saw that Chicho and Triluxers split up, but actually it's really exciting now to see that Triluxers pick the right trio partners, I should say, as we head into this season, because Nota and Shark, it feels like there's a good chemistry there. We saw them getting caught up in the congestion of the lower ground, but they were dealing with the pressure pretty well, Evan.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, if I have the time to speak about this here, I was actually a bit frustrated seeing almost like the struggles Trulix had at times to get teammates. Because it's like, what more could you ask for in an IGL? You know he's going to deliver, you know, the perfect sort of early and mid-game plan. He's going to get you to end games consistently. You know on LAN he's going to show up and be better than most of the world. Like, it was just really confusing to me that you sort of struggled there. But happy that he's able to pick up Shark and Noah, Noah's had like a revival of his career, right? I think we all remember back in the days of Chapter 2 when he was obviously the top dog, but he's returning back to great form. And I'm really excited about this trio moving forward, to be honest with you.
Can we see the leaderboard? Because I do want to just have a quick check-in with the elimination numbers for Nebs, Kiro, and Pig, because I had some concerns going into this game that they get tags and not eliminations. But we can confirm there were definitely eliminations in that last game. They're now sitting in 11, just outside the top 10. 6 eliminations in that game alone. So you know what? These guys, they're on the up. I'm predicting good things for them, Takata.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking good. You could say maybe it's related to Kira not being there anymore. They get extra loot, but I don't think so. We'll see how it continues.
We will. Let's keep our fingers crossed. More eliminations for everyone in the lobby as we head back to Taco and Miniminer.
Eliminations are always a big part of the winning strategy, but sometimes it just comes down to the overall positioning, right? We nearly saw that pan out super well for Trippern's team, and I'm sure they'll be chasing that same level of success. And now without Pigstorm and Demas in the lobby, we'll get a chance to see who's going to be joining them next on that Major 2 Finals battle bus.
Big questions to be answered. Big questions about who's going to land where as well. Pump Power being a drop spot that could potentially house some new talent, some new trios after Pigstorm and Demas did make their way through. And yeah, as you mentioned, I'm sure Trippin and that trio won't be too disappointed with it. Solid performance from them, second place, even just in this sort of lobby. If you can claim height at that stage and get those pullbacks and just guarantee placements, that's going to be great for them. And this is an area that we saw a bit of a fight in last game, Taco. This sort of metal area just to the south of Outlaw. Nakes does pick up the assault rifle, so able to get a few bits of tags on already. Drops on through and picks up Julius, which is really nicely done. Not Astral. Nicely done from them, as already getting this fight out to a great start.
Great decision making there as well. Could have opted to just chase down that player that we saw kind of skirt off that hillside. Instead, looks to back up his teammates who needed the reinforcements much sooner. Granted, it hasn't gotten them out of the woods just yet. Kind, Nix, and Props still likely due for some additional company here, especially when that trio wraps back around, maybe looking for a little bit of revenge. Ricky, Nefario, and Zardo, though, have decided to try and take over Pump Power. Keeping an eye on Janice's team, though, because we saw them make an absolutely insane comeback. And while they did go down to the Storm eventually, Mini, it's just the fact that they were able to put themselves in that position to begin with.
Yeah, they had a really nice comeback. I mean, their off-spawn last game was just a little bit confusing, I think, for a lot of people, and for them potentially as well. They didn't quite know what was going to happen. Managed to pick up the pieces and then unfortunately went down to the Storm. But for now, it's already a bit of a difficult time off spawn as Janice has just decided to dip on out. He's running to another team, though. As you can see now, he's going to get this fight going. Gobor on the other side of the wall. Janice hits a huge shot with his pump, but it's not going to be enough as Gobor had the health advantage. So it's just going from bad to worse for Janice and co off spawn here. It's not, they just haven't been able to find their feet, Taco. It seems like they've been able to, you know, have these positions and be in solid situations and maybe have some good strategies off spawn, but nothing's been able to be put in place yet. And it just seems like they're always struggling to pick up what they need to do.
They just need something to stick, but that method just has not been able to be applied. It's definitely just looking like another uphill battle, and that's even if they're able to go for another reboot opportunity. Other teams, though, looking to play some of these fringe areas of the map. Sai, Clement nearly losing it all. Fortunately for him, he's got his teammate right next to him, and Splix will be able to capitalize on that engagement. Clement having already taken credit for 2 of those elims. Shiny Shafts now opened up for Clement's team to try and take advantage of.
Yeah, huge for them as well. 4th place on the leaderboard going into this game, so that's 2nd on consistency. They really needed that one to go their way to get those extra points in the end game and know what they can do when they do get there. Because now it's up to Ziandi, Ju, Fincheck inside of this fight. Ziandi trying to find as many angles as possible. And just trying to play outside of the box. Another third party, I think, looking in from the other side as well. Ju getting involved as well. You can see them blocking off their angles really well. Just ensuring that this fight isn't going to end quickly from another angle. That's what's going to be most important for them. There's Ziandi, Ju, and Co, and Fincheck there. They're really just taking this slowly. They know the stakes on the line here, Taco. They know that they're not a team that can afford to go down here. They need to make the most of all their games. Just sat in 8th on the leaderboard. So important.
It's just crazy how long Nexus team has been able to delay Props. While it initially looked like that was the green light, losing his shield. Instead, going to be able to bring his shield back up. Kind, Props, and Nyx, that they know they are incredibly low. No more white heals remain in comparison. Ziandi, Ju, Fincheck, they've still got a decent amount to work with here. And Ziandi now just crouching around, maintaining the same line of sight. He's going to leave it up to Ju and Fincheck, potentially try and apply pressure from elsewhere. But it seems as though they know they've kind of overstayed their welcome. They don't want to get caught up by any third party, so they'll leave for the time being. Wouldn't be surprised, though, to see them kind of circle back around.
Yeah, big game needed here as well for Mr. Savage's trio. They're also inside of that top 5 for consistency currently, but only just. So you saw them going down, of course, to Janice's team in that mid-game last game. Just took them by surprise, I think, a little bit. It's always a difficulty for teams when you are looking good. You've got Surge in the mid-game, everything's looking great, and then there's a team that rolls up that needs 400 damage. They're not going to be backing down in that fight, and who isn't backing down right now? It's Moneymaker for 9 and Faded. Moneymaker with a really nice little solo clutch in that last game to keep these guys in contention as well, up that sort of top end of the leaderboard. And this is a trio that I do think can pick up a win today. They just need to have all the right things happen for them off spawn. The early game, the mid game just needs to go their way, and they're trying to get aggressive here early on, get that damage done as soon as possible, just to open them up, open up the floodgates, if you like, for that end game prowess to come through, as they're 3 very talented players. And we know all about how good Moneymaker can be, in particular when it comes to those clutches. So I want to see more from them, though.
They're just doing what they can to defend their black market more than anything else. Kind, Props, and Nyx. They had to go all the way out into the abyss, though, of Shogun Solitude. And as a result, they will find what looks to be just a solo player, Mydro. That's a quick and easy elimination to claim. Kind even running all the way towards the body loot just to see if there's anything worth grabbing. Still, they are so far and away from a lot of the action here, Mini. And it's just the results of that early exchange. Not being able to find the closure they were hoping for. Shark and Noah Riley, they've also got to be a little bit wary here, a little bit cautious. Surge base yet again at the Rolling Blossoms farm area, and just kind of taking in the views, hoping that they can apply a little bit of surge damage. It's certainly something that a handful of teams have had their struggles with throughout the first 2 lobbies. And in the last game even, I know that True Lake certainly has a really strong shot calling mind about him, but it's really tough to just outright go for that fight.
Replay here of what happened with Nebs, Kiro, Pink. Beautiful connections there from Nebs to take down Focus. So that's the last piece of the Janice trio puzzle that has just been really tumultuous for them, really tough for them just to find their footing on or at the beginning of the game. And unfortunately for them, now their off-spawn situation at Pump Power is going to be a little bit different, because the other team's just going to have that confidence now going into that drop spot off-spawn. Still want to see more from Pink's trio, though, despite having a better game last time. I want to see more from them when it gets to those later stages. For Raxi, Gobel, and Keel. These guys fighting around this Magic Moss's black market. I think this is an area that I certainly expected a lot of these fights to go down. There's plenty of great loot in there. You can buy those splashes 100% of the time. There's some heals in there that can be used as well. So I wouldn't expect this fight to end too quickly because of that. Unless Ricky here can get a nice big shot off. I think these guys will be quite happy just to play a little game of chess here and see who can get that initial beam, that initial tag off the soonest. This is just how these fights go. I think there's another sort of team rotating on through as well, so they've got to be extra careful. See those arrows in the bottom right of the screen just rotating over, making their way through. And yeah, there's Gaudet and that trio. They're just sneaking up, trying to find an opening, an advantage for them to maybe close on in here, Taco. It's just all about timing for this.
They've already got 3 eliminations, and they found their opening. Raxi now going to realize that there is a third party involved with this exchange here at the Magic Moss's black market. But they've already invested so much time. And this is kind of the dominoes effect as well, with Demons, Dharma, and Pix no longer being in the lobby. All these other teams now trying to scrounge, see what they can grab there from that Magic Moss's black market. But they knew that they were going to have to look for a fight. It was never going to be a clean sweep by any means. And we'll have to check back in to see whether or not those teams actually decide to commit to finding some eliminations there. Clement, Vox, and Splix, though, just one more time, running it down from Shiny Shafts. And those early eliminations, it definitely helping them to stick around a little bit longer, try and play for a little bit more of that dead side rotate.
We're going to see another full damage with the kneecap of baseball bat.
It happens to the best of us.
He caught us. Yeah, it does. It does. We have seen it plenty of times. But we didn't, which is good.
Especially if your bat breaks in midair.
That does also, yeah, that would happen to... It would be an absolute disaster. But this sort of area, so many surge bases. They sort of renamed this area Surge Base City, you know, as a new PLI maybe. It's just 3 different teams that are all the way up here, built up. I know I saw Mr. Savage in one earlier. We saw, of course, Trulex in one as well. Now Thomas HD using this Mythic to try and get as many tags as possible. Of course, you just get that addition of the thermal scope, just allowing him to get easy vision onto everyone that you, of course, can't get with any other weapon in the game right now. So he's got that advantage over the rest of the lobby. Pretty good from close range as well, that drum gun. So not a bad weapon to use for him when it comes down to those damage numbers. But for this trio, Trippin, really good performance from them last game. I thought they took hype really well. They were very commanding. It just obviously didn't work out for them in the end. They couldn't quite close out those final few limbs, but really promising.
And don't get me wrong, sometimes the stars really do just align when it comes to the way that those moving zones pool. That was certainly something that Trippin's team made sure to take advantage of. But a third party could be in the back of their mind currently. Certainly, they've got to be able to hear a lot of the commotion that's taking place between Gobo, Roxy, Cube, and the way that they're shooting the Spanish trio, Scary Sean. Just the fact that both of these teams, though, have refused to budge, essentially, Minnie. They have just stuck around for so long, and it doesn't really look like either side has fully benefited from it either. I think that they're kind of just holding each other at a standstill.
Yeah, with so many whites in the game as well, they can afford to do that, and both teams know that. It's almost a skill gap in itself, is knowing when to go in for those fights, when to stick around, when then to disengage, and just evaluating, sort of weighing up what are we going to gain from staying here if we are to be successful, and what are we to lose if it doesn't go our way. And I think that's what they realized right there. They thought, right, if we're going to stick around here for too much longer, we're going to miss out on a lot of damage throughout the rest of this game for what? Maybe some splashes, maybe some extra bits of loot. As you can see, they had a lot of grey weapons in their inventory, lots of grey all over, which is not what they want, but it's probably not worth risking a fight in that situation for them. So probably the right decision from my point of view.
Faded F9 and Moneymaker, though, they're just at the edge of the river, currently outside of Seaport. Surge base directly above them, though. Gonna pay them a little bit of a welcomer that they weren't necessarily after. Toos and Karmi, they've got to be really careful here. Already in a duo circumstance, fighting for their lives against Ricky and Zardo, but Karmi, he's just got to play backup right now for Toos. Not only that, but Nefario, Ricky, with the numbers advantage, they're going to just try and take out the first person that they can come across, and Toos is going to be on the other end of it, right next to his teammate Karmi, Ricky, Zarda, and Nefario. They needed these refreshes, though. A little bit of surge damage can go a long way when you are this far out in the storm.
Yeah, huge. Few eliminations right there. Really nicely done. Just the speed at which they can get into those boxes with the gold splash, the gold rush, really played into their favor right there. Just allowed them to finish that fight so much quicker than they would have without it. So that's really nice from them. But for Lynx and his trio right now, they've got a bit of a problem to deal with Sai and company. It's a problematic position because they are on that low ground. They do have an elimination, so they shouldn't be too desperate for the damage. They could just sort of chill here. They don't necessarily need too much unless an opportunity does present itself, and you can always allow that trio to come to you rather than the other way around. Yeah, I think they are just going to make the decision to rotate on out, so it's good plays from them. But oh, they see an opening. Really nice triple spray right there. Sai going down. Huge tags and huge knock. It was Stan, actually, from afar that managed to pick up that knock, but Lynx is going to be able to pick up all of the goodies that come from it. So really nicely done from those guys. The patience was so important for them there. And that's going to ultimately give them another little bit of a boost that they didn't necessarily need, but they'll gladly take.
Definitely still need to be cautious, though. A team had pulled up to that southern side of Hopeful Heights, so even after finding that elimination, you're never really out of the danger zone with so many other teams lurking nearby. Sined has been fixated in the surge base for a hot minute now. And Austin Reskar, a very seasoned trio. That's for sure. As far as individual stature is concerned, and Anas, Sined, Repsgard, most importantly, have a very firm grasp of knowing if you don't have your surge damage, you can't really do much else. Even if you get the most optimal rotations of all time, you're never going to be able to stay alive once the moving zones come into play, especially. Scum, though, I like this. Just getting right into the heat of it, with Nox taking advantage of a bit of a separated player. But it's always a little bit tragic when you're seeing these teams and individuals more so, because you have to just think about how they're going back to the drawing board in between each of these lobbies and trying to, you know, formulate a plan that's actually going to work for them in the next one.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100%. It's, time is ticking, though, so you want to make sure that your plan is evolving. You know, you've got a couple of games now left after this, so I think the focus has to shift from maybe picking up replacements to picking up wins, but Gaudet there and his trio getting a huge beam there onto Ziandi. Ju is now weak. It's all up to him to try and stay alive to keep the trio in it, and Ziandi's trying to get away as well. The full trio just hounding Ziandi right now, trying to connect with a few extra shots. They do in the end and take him out. Really nicely done from this trio, as now they're a little bit of a problem in the back is Fincheck that does return fire. It's now back to a 2v2. Joanne now also has a bit of a problem to deal with too, as he's now also weak. Fincheck doing so much damage to all three of these players. Can he do this right now? Can Fincheck get his way in? Ju's also there by his side. They still need to keep tabs of their whites. You can see them just chucking those splashes down to now enable them to get a little bit quicker, but no. A fight that we thought was going to end so much quicker there. They decided to dip on out. They decided to disengage, and I think it's a smart decision. You can see there's another team lurking nearby. But the problem with getting into zone is there's so many eyes on you now. Fincheck, Ju, they have all of that focus all on them. Whether they'll survive this is another question, because they're still looking so weak. And it's Lucia, Wheat, and Nefreezy that are able to look on through. Will they push, or will they decide to rotate, because that zone does pull far?
The problem is they clipped Fincheck, and when they saw that tear into the white HP, that's the primary reason why they were kind of refusing to let up for a moment. But Fincheck and Ju have managed to escape that focus. Still, they know there's a couple of players up above them, and it's the players that were last trying to tango with them. Darkiso and Artie They don't necessarily have a whole lot of time left to work with. Those Storm Surge ticks just breaking away at whatever HP they have left remaining. And this is the big reason why Lusha was sticking around for so long. They needed that damage, Mini. 19 below still. They're going to opt to take a couple of shots, but now they've drawn the focus of the lobby from up ahead. They're going to try to get a move on forward, but it's not going to be easy, fortunately. A little bit of the natural elevation working in their favor, and they'll have a chance now to look back, spray. Ju, sadly, going to have to try and pivot the direction that he was initially going. Because him and Finchek, they don't need the damage. They already were well above the surge threshold. They're just trying to stay out of eyesight here from Lusha, Wheat, and Nefreezy, but these guys are chasing them down.
There they are. This is a perfect opportunity for them to take down Ju, though, getting ahead of them. Really nice tags there from Lusha to connect right there, but in the process, Wheat goes down, and this was as a result of their decision-making earlier. They decided to stay on that edge of zone for a little bit too long. They have to make a hefty rotation across the map. It's a long way to go. Ju somehow is still in the game. As I say that, he gets knocked, and it's now all up to Lusha and Nefreezy and that trio to pick up the pieces as Wheat goes down. So thankfully for them, they do get a bit of a zone pull in their favor. It's just about how can they ensure they make their way into the zone, no matter how many materials they seemingly waste. It's not a waste if they're able to get in unharmed, but no, Nefreezy goes down. There's only going to be a green light now for all these other teams circling the area to spray on through. Lusha does have an exotic Chug Jug, so he is going to be able to get back up to full HP, but without his teammates.
Knowing that they were sitting in that third place, they were leading consistency on the day, but that might be cut short here. Up both Panzer and Thomas definitely keeping very close tabs. I know it's a solo boxed up currently, but they don't want to draw too much focus. A lot of foot traffic around them as well, and they're just trying to be very cautious with how they proceed. They don't want to find themselves getting pinched between separate teams, and Trulex right behind where Thomas's team was just at. Moneymaker for 9 faded. They've just kind of been playing the slow and steady game, but that's not going to work out for them for much longer. They need to get some damage, and they need to get it soon before those Storm Surge takes start to become a real problem, because Faded, he doesn't have any heals. They're not going to be able to recuperate these shields unless they force the refreshes, and 4G plays Rabbit, they might be able to provide that, but Moneymaker knows better than anyone. He's been in this kind of scenario before. They just need to get closer into those boxes, but they don't want to threaten their current position.
They don't. This is a difficult situation for them. We saw them fighting off Spawn, but they couldn't quite find the full trio, so maybe that's coming back to haunt them now. Lusha's still in the game, not going to be able to get up to too much HP, but the fact he's still here is impressive in itself. Just about to break into those placement points soon enough as well, if he can make it there. Let's see where this next zone pulls. That's a big problem for him, and another big problem is his Storm Surge. He has to get aggressive right now, otherwise that damage is going to come ticking on through. 41 below, it's not a huge amount, but now that the pressure's on, the damage is coming through. 25 damage per tick is not going to be something that Lusha is going to be appreciative of. 25 HP, one more tick, he needs 100 damage. It's all over, you have to imagine, as Lusha goes back to the lobby.
There just weren't any options left for Lusha at that point. It was either expose yourself going for tags and be beamed by another team from underneath you or across, or just wait for the Storm Surge to do its work. Faded, Moneymaker for 9. They didn't want to wait for much longer, though. The fact that they were able to get that aggressive has definitely extended their marks in this third match. Anas, Refsguard, Sinet, though, we saw them for the longest time in their Surge base, and it seems like it worked out in their favor. 545 above currently, but most importantly of all, holding on to height. It's about suppressing that secondary position.
This is a huge game for them as well. Look at where the zone's pulled. It's right next to their drop spot. This is a huge opportunity for them. If they can pick up a win here, this could be the perfect time, because they're not going to get many better zones than this. The Surge, as you mentioned, is in their favor, but some other Danish players and Thomas are still in the lobby as well, so they have to be very careful. And Nas is getting absolutely beamed from the players down below. I think it's Trippin as well, his good friend down there, so he's got to be very careful. But they're taking control of both sides of zone right here. You saw Refsguard and Sined looking for that further pull. I think it is going to pull in the other direction, so it'll be interesting to see if they do continue to claim that high ground, as Mr. Savage and his trio rotating down on that low ground again, keeping up that consistency. And yeah, Refsguard, Sined, and Anas are going to keep that high ground. But a massive game needed from them, and what a great opportunity for them.
They'll at least be able to control the flow of these teams in the low ground. Scam forced to expend a lot of material because of the fact that height is just continuing to spray down onto them. Thomas, Panzer, Uppel, though, from low, directly finding these eliminations, finding these refreshes at a crucial hour. They're going to be able to keep trying to tarp their way forward, but Sined, Refsguard, Anas, way up above the rest of this lobby. It's going to take a lot for somebody to try and threaten their current position, but Thomas, Panzer, Uppel, they're a little bit too fixated on what's happening right in front of them. Looking back for a moment, Thomas trying to see if he can get some pressure going, and sure enough, teams just caught amongst each other. They know one wrong step could be the end of it, just like Clement's team finding that elimination.
Yeah, huge for Clement's team here as well on that low ground. They're trying to take control of that, as is Thomas on the front side of this zone. Looking back at all those stragglers rotating in to the Storm, or at least trying to, as he gets a knock in the process. Huge for this team. They're not going to be able to get the refresh on that, but they're going to be able to keep plowing through this sort of low ground section a little bit above everyone else, so they know that the zone could pull up on top of this hill, which it does, and they need to try and keep a little bit of elevation to account for that problem, as now Sined, Refsguard, and Nas, they're still up on height. Looking secure as well, but they might be running low on materials as Vidil is able to do such a good job at fragging out there on the low ground. So is Thomas, and they're just picking up elimination after elimination.
Thomas is putting an absolute clinic on currently from frontside low, trying to ensure that his team is finally going to be able to live up to that level of success that everybody has scrutinized them for. Refsguard and Nas still up above, Pink as well, down in the dirt here. They're gonna find Noah Riley, shutting down Trulex's trio entirely. Huge elimination to pick up, especially considering that it's just Nebs and Pink working as a pair dynamic, and they're gonna be able to layer swap thanks to that refresh. A little bit more material to work with. Thomas HD, though, running incredibly low on builds.
Look at what it does. The zone's pulling all the way through this surge phase. Huge moments here for Anas, Refsguard, and Sined all the way up on height. Clement also in that mid-ground layer getting active as well, as Thomas HD, Panzer, and Uppel are just completely dominating that low ground section as well. Drops inside, does Pink and Nebs. There they go back to the lobby, as now Uppel and Panzer need to clutch up as a duo, as there's another trio on that front side that are looking for it. It's not just any trio, it's Mr. Savage, Vidil, and Reason. They're the ones that are now claiming low ground.
It would be quite the finish here if Reason, Mr. Savage, and Vidil could be the ones to shut down Uppel and Panzer. But first, they got to deal with Clement, and sure enough, they bring him to his end. Now, taking back one more time, Vox going to be the next body that they're after. And Mr. Savage, only 5 builds remain, but if he can connect with these shots, it might not matter. Reason, though, he's actually fallen. Anas credited to it, and that's going to give him a little bit of wiggle room, working around the side of the build. But the moment he challenges, Mr. Savage just takes him down. Savage with another one onto Sined. It doesn't look like he has any intentions of stopping, waiting for the perfect opportunity here. Might even try to play the double revive, but he's not going to get that option. Panzer shut down. Mr. Savage, that's a little taste of revenge if I've ever seen it here, Minnie. And now, Reason, double revive, just to really seal the deal. Alone Uppel. Barely any HP remains from the backside of zone, and a fully intact trio in Mr. Savage, Vidil, and Reason. It almost feels like a victory lap at this point. Uppel gonna try to exchange some shots, but it's all been said and done here. They will be in our Major 2 finals. Mr. Savage, Reason, and Vidil have done it.
They have done it. Mr. Savage fans rise. This is their time. They have managed to do it, and there was so many people, so many viewers watching with their teeth just clattering together, I'm sure, just wondering, is it going to be a repeat of what we saw earlier on, where they had the low ground but didn't quite make the most of it? This time, there was absolutely no chance of them throwing this game. Really nicely done from this trio, and just the way that they were able to sort of reclaim that low ground at so many moments. This elimination here, little bit of revenge. Get back here, as now Uppel, of course, just couldn't do anything about it. But huge moments for this trio, and I'm sure the fans will be happy. We will be seeing Mr. Savage in yet another major final.
Savage's flow state at the end there when it came to picking up the eliminations was absolutely disgusting, and I know we're not the only ones that have something to say about it, Minnie.
Well, guys, my teeth weren't exactly clattering, but my jaw was wide open and practically on the floor during the end game there. That 3v1 versus Upple. Obviously, great to see Thomas's trio in it to win it. But how fantastic, Levin, to see that Mr. Savage has unretired in style.
This is what it's all about. The storyline, the script. I'm telling you, it only starts here. It's only going to keep getting better for this trio. I hope at least. What a win. They've been excellent today. Top. Of course, came very close already in one of these games. Finally sealed the deal against some very tough competitors as well. The ending of that game was absolute cinema. Well deserved. Good to see Mr. Savage back in the finals. Hopefully, he can top last season's placement as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was literally like, it went slow motion for me when Mr. Savage took down Panzer after Panzer snaking for Thomas and Upple, and then Savage just taking him out to secure the victory and pushing himself into the major finals. It does not get any more cinema than what we are witnessing right now, Levin.
No, literally, like, shout out to Taco for the call there, because she was spot on. The revenge, you could just taste it. I'm honestly gonna, as soon as we go to break, I'm going straight to Savage's stream. I need to see his reaction to that, because like you know, I can only imagine just how elated they must have been feeling in that moment. I can only imagine how he must feel if he knows they took down Panzer in that moment, right? Like, that would be an even better feeling as well for the revenge part of it. But this team is so deserving. When you come together so last minute and are still able to look like such a cohesive, strong team against top opponents, like, you know, it makes sense at the end of the day, because this is the most experienced team in the lobby. But I'm so impressed by them game after game.
Guys,
Wow.
I never had any doubt. I knew that they would get the victory royale. I just knew it wouldn't be the first victory royale of Group 3. We will be back in a few minutes to chat all about game number 3. So, guys, stay tuned. Welcome back to FNCS, and if you've just tuned in, you have missed the fact that Mr. Savage has made it to yet another FNCS final. And combined with Reason and Vidil, that means they've made 64 FNCS finals in total. This must be the most successful trio in European history, Takata. It is wild how successful they are.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, thinking what's next, too. Now that they're qualified to the major finals, Vico Venoflixi were tweeting that they were posting on socials, we kind of want to go the same draft where Savage is going. And then also, what happens if they qualify to globals now? Wasn't Savage going to retire? There's so many things going on, but, I love to see it.
Ugh, I can't wait for the Masked Meadows showdown, but that is next weekend. We've got to talk still about what happened in game number 3 of Group 3, because something else that was very pleasing to see was Thomas's trio coming in second. It feels like it was the first end game they kind of went into where all three of them were up and running, because they seemed to have some issues in the previous two of losing a trio member a bit early, Levin. What did you make of them this game?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Thomas was popping off, right? to be quite frank. That mythic drum gun in his hands, we should get everyone to sign a petition to say he can't have it. Give it to Panzer Up or give it to someone else. We shouldn't let this guy have this weapon. Every single time the cameras pan to him, he was just being a nuisance to somebody around him, right? And that's what you expect from Thomas HD at the end of the day, but the combination of the drum gun and Thomas HD, it is just nasty.
That's a Tommy gun.
It is it's Tommy's
Literally.
gun. It is Tommy's gun.
Tommy's gun. It's what you love to see. We talked about how frequently Thomas is getting the most damage on EU, literally having the most in those initial Div Cup finals, and now showing that he can also do it, in the same lobbies time and time again. After popping off, they weren't able to secure the victory royale, but with this most recent match, I mean, they have more than enough points to put them in an amazing spot for qualifying through consistency at no surprise for a trio of this caliber, and I'm just excited to see if they continue to perform at this level in the upcoming matches.
It's definitely a nice return to form for Thomas HD. And if you look above him, for position, we've got Clement, Splick and Vox. It's a good night for the French trios. We've already sent one through, Akira's trio in game number 1. And these guys are now the most consistent trio in the lobby. 3 games they have got into that end game. Maybe not so high in the eliminations, but it's definitely been an impressive performance so far, Levin.
Yeah, I'm looking at 10th place though, because Anas, Refsguard and not Splick, so you got me confused there, and Syned, they were on height for a lot of that end game. And if I'm being honest with you, for a lot of that game, I thought, what's going to go on here? Are they going to be able to get the job done? They look strong, but you can see the materials right now on Refsguard. They were just so low on mats throughout the end here that when it came down to it, they just had to drop down and just scrap it out. And unfortunately, they got out scrapped. And that does happen. I didn't even notice that. And that's just getting blown towards the front of the zone. Unfortunate ending for this team, but it's really interesting to see these guys in this lobby. I will say something though, Takata. We have, for the people who don't know who watch the show, we have a lot of Danish people behind the scenes who are involved in the making of FNCS. And towards the end there, our producer was in our ear because we had Anas and another Danish team sort of in there. We had Thomas popping off. We had all these Danish players going crazy. They were in my ear going, Danish lobby, Danish lobby. Danish team didn't even win. So hold that, Denmark.
Look, you can be the Danish hater here, Levin, but to give them the benefit of the doubt, this was the first match they got into the top 10, and they did a great job. They unfortunately ran out of materials, didn't go quite their way. We're not going to talk about what happened to Levin. We all love Denmark here. Everybody's a big fan. Thomas HD is going to win his first major finals.
You can't get rid of me.
No, we can't. Disappear him again, please, production. Disappear him. Thank you very much. Gosh, so much more relaxed now he's gone. Oh, he's back. Awkward. Anyway, Takata, you were saying?
No, we love to see it. We love to see it.
We got to head to Alcatraz because apparently Levin is back in the lobby and we need to have a quick conversation about being nice to the people that pay our wages. So let's pop off and get game number 4 underway.
Yeah, I quite like being on the screen, so we're gonna talk nicely about Denmark here, Taco. It was pretty much full Denmark lobby there at the end. It was very, very exciting. I genuinely did think that Refsguard and Nas and Syned were going to do it there at the end, and it just shows that height isn't always the key to success.
We got to take it a little bit personally there, though, for refs, Thomas, Tripper. I mean, somebody's got to find that little bit of dignity now for Denmark. Surely make Levin eat his own words. I know that they would love to see it, and so would our production team. But first, we got to see what happens in match 4.
Yeah, match number 4 is upon us. Huge moments for our teams that are higher up. Just need to keep doing what they need to do, and for teams that are lower down, as we talked about throughout the last couple of groups, now it's all about how do we get out of this situation. 2 more games to potentially make it into the Major 2 finals. You want to get it done now. That last chance qualifier is so difficult to not only qual for, but then also actually pick up a victory. So still a few of our big names that still haven't made it. So lots and lots of storylines to keep tabs on. One of which is, of course, this off-spawn battle in this sort of strange area of the map between a couple of different POIs. We haven't quite seen it all go crazy at the very beginning here, Taco. It seems very peaceful. I think that'll benefit Kind and company there.
At least no immediate 50-50, but the Bear Army, they're hoping to get the advantage here at Lone Wolf Lair. Marco, sadly, is going... Oh, actually, no. That's in his benefit. Excuse me. Yeah. For a moment, it looked like it had turned against him. Isma. Fakey. Trying to close in now onto Gorditi. Scary Sean. They don't have Joanne. That was actually going to be the first member lost here for the Spanish trio. And really like this, though, from Marco, Fakey, and Isma. They know that they've already got the 1 elim advantage. They're not trying to overextend by any means. They've already had to deal with a fair amount of third-party action here today. And so if they can't find the immediate conclusion, make sure that you're as healthy as possible before you get into that battle yet again. And it certainly hasn't closed itself off. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Spanish team wrap back around. Shiny Chefs, though, other plans in mind here for Clement, leading the charge with the limb count.
Yeah, really good from this trio. They've been really impressive today, just overall, that consistency. They haven't necessarily been in any moments where we've been like, wow, you know, this is an incredible performance. It's been a good performance in every single game, and sometimes that's all you need in these sort of lobbies. Of course, top 5 consistency does qualify through. Victory Royale will do the job as well if you have just joined us and a little bit confused. There's still potential for them to make it into the finals. Just another decent game. Team that did have a more than decent game last time was Refsgard, Sined, and us, who just really looked so strong up on high. It wasn't quite to be there in the end. If it wasn't for that sort of low ground dominance from Mr. Savage's trio. Now that they're out of the lobby, I'm interested to see how that whole landscape of that south side of the map near Mars Meadows is going to go down, especially since now we've got Panzer, Appel, and Thomas still in the lobby, who've been terrorizing the lobby, if you like, with all of their Storm Surge tags in this sort of area. So excited to see what this team can bring to the table now as well.
And I'm really excited, too, for Thomas, Appel, and Panzer, because now that we have seen Savage, Vadil, and Reason successfully qual to the Major 2 finals, we got to put some respect onto Panzer's name. He has done a phenomenal job as an up-and-comer in the European competitive scene. And I don't think that this is the end of the road by any stretch of the imagination. Sure, it's definitely tough, but maybe we can get some more people cheering for Panzer now that Savage is successfully through. Lispy, though, just hoping that he doesn't meet his ultimate fate here. Just a little bit southeast of Shogun's Solitude, and Valerie Kenti applying a lot of pressure, but it's largely just forcing these teams to burn through their material count.
Yeah, that laser is just so unrelenting. Yeah, no ammo necessarily with that sort of item. It's just a different sort of health to it, if you like, as Kenti has to try and put the brakes on there. A little bit of reverse to go on back through there as Velvy just continues that pressure with that weapon up above. It's just such a difficult weapon to contend against, because not only is it just unrelenting, it's also just quite annoying to deal with from up above. Just never-ending spray. This is really good from just wasting, burning through that team's materials. Wow, what a shot from return right there. As Lispy tries to get a shot, but it's not enough to connect. This is an important fight where both teams do need a good game here. They need something that's going to propel them up the leaderboard. It haven't been the best day necessarily for both of these teams, but this fight could be the catalyst for them having a better start, or better end to the day, I should say.
Being in 24th, though, on the leaderboard, heading into this 4th match, these teams don't necessarily have a whole lot of... They have to find these fights. They have to be successful with them. Tromic tries to get involved. Lispy, so just too many numbers in his favor. That's one elimination. What these teams need is a strong game. They're playing for the Victory Royale at this point, but they might not be able to find it when they're struggling so early on, just dealing with one other trio, and that's not even to count in what's happening now. The way that Sai and Naka rolling in the vicinity, this is just gone from bad to worse for both of those original trios.
We're seeing camping in bushes. Kenty camping in a tree, avoiding the sight lines of any other player. Look at this. This is the new strat. This is how to do it. I might adopt this in solo cash cuts. That could be it. Sai is still unaware of the presence right there, but still just trying to look for as many shots as possible through this build. And this is just unreal. He cannot see Kenty whatsoever. Just keeping on applying that pressure, and maybe there's a chance that he spots him in just a moment. Maybe there's a chance that Kenty can find opportunity to hit a shot. Oh my goodness. He hasn't seen him. He still has not seen me. Oh, now he has. And Sai has to deal with him right now as Kenty got straight into the box. Huge shot from him, but he's still only a duo, and this has just unleashed the rest of that trio to come on through. A very sneaky start to that fight, but unfortunately not one that goes in the favor of Kenty.
Sadly, the whiff of a lifetime there for Kenty on the opening shot. A little bit of nerves definitely seeming to come into play. It's a tough break for sure, but Velry at least is still kicking. Stan, Magnus, and Lispy have had a chance now to revisit what they had initially started. They only have one elimination. They would definitely like more if possible, but they don't know how much damage was actually applied from those last couple of shots that they heard go off in the area, just lurking underneath the low ground. They also very likely aware of the fact that there's at least one player left over that doesn't belong to either trio. Doesn't seem to matter for the time being, though. Nox, Sai, and Nake just continuing to kind of pin down everybody that was stuck in this spot to begin with.
Yeah, it's all players just that need a solid performance. They need a win, as you mentioned, lower down on the leaderboard. It's these fights that can really start that game off and get you off on a good foot, but you can also almost sense the nerves in that fight. There's no one wants to make a commitment, no one wants to take that risk. For Wheat and Freezy Lucia, 8th place on the leaderboard right now, which puts them just inside of that consistency top 5 so far. So looking pretty strong, but they're going to try and continue that. Look at this, more sneaky play. Gobor trying to get involved, the piece control, the pre-edits come through. They're not going to be able to connect with too many shots though, as this is now Marco's trio that came out of Lavish, of Lone Wolf Lair, I should say, as they are able to survive the Wrath for now. And this is a difficult position for the other team now that did initiate that fight, because they didn't really get what they wanted from it. So I think it's going to be a bit of a disengage from seemingly everyone, as they're going to allow that one team that's still in there, and Ricky's team, to enjoy the loot from that black market. And again, it's another one of these situations where what do you do? Do you decide to stay? Do you decide to try and fight? How much do you back yourself as a trio in those fights? Or is it just a waste of time when it comes down to it? So decisions all around.
Baku's team had clearly been hoping for a little bit more of a conclusive finish when they entered the Magic Mosses area. Whether it was an opportunity for a third party, since that early elimination they did pick up onto Joam might not have been enough as far as surge damage. But Nake, Nox, Sai still chasing out Stan. And the problem that's starting to really unravel here, Minnie, is that even if one of these trios does successfully manage to take out the other, it's not exactly what you would call a winning position. they're not too far off from the edge of zone, but it's just the fact that this fight has been drawn out for so long. If you're looking at a team that's going to be able to convert into a victory royale, Manu's not going to have that chance. Sai does get the elim count here, and finally we see an ending to this storyline at the southern end of the map, but it just took so much time for both ends to kind of close everything off.
Yeah.
You have to be able to find those fights more securely if you want that late game victory royale.
Yeah, for sure. I think in those sort of positions of the map, it's not too detrimental to have that fight drag on. There's not too many players on that sort of dead side of zone, you know, right on the edge. It's not too much of a problem, but you just never know. You're absolutely right. You never want to have that fight go on for too much longer than you need it to. It's never going to be an advantage for a fight to take longer. So it's nice for them to get that fight over and done with as Nebs, Pink, and Kiro inside of that sort of Seaport City area. Strap, Trippin, and Hellfire, they're trying to find a little bit more success than we have seen from them previously. They're not in that top 5 consistency right now. Maybe they're going to need another height take, another aggressive play for that top-down view on the lobby in order to qualify through here. As Trippin definitely knows how difficult that LCQ can be based off of last season's performances. Just so many of these sort of storm fights, players trying to look for damage on each other and then dip on out. It's seemingly the story of this season. Just so many players that are quite happy to stay inside of the storm and use all the extra heals that are in the map.
Trippin's definitely sick of just being on the sidelines, though. He wants to be on that battle bus for the Major 2 finals. And their team, they've got to find some form of a catalyst in this Game 4 here. Because again, it is about working your way into that consistency metric for the leaderboard. If you can't get that Victory Royale going, Lynx, Skiam, and Diesel stuck over by Outlaw Oasis. Clear that there was a little bit of a battle that taken place here earlier on, but they're just looking for the aftermath. Whatever they can scrap and make use of as they continue their journey forward. Not too far away from them, though. We saw Z, Andy, and Ju. So you've always got to keep an eye out for some of these other teams rotating with you.
Definitely. It's Happy Guden Rakuzan inside of this area. Starkus being Rakuzan. So I'm intrigued as to what this team can do. 91 points. They are just outside of that top 5. They do need a solid performance here to really set themselves up in that last game. I think they've spotted or maybe even heard a fight potentially just around the corner here, and it's going to involve Hellfire, Trippin, and Strapped. Wow, beautiful shots right there. Godet going down, and his teammates are inside of a fight as well, so he was just trying to get back to his teammates, poor guy, and unfortunately for the rest of his team, they're not having a good time either. Scary Sean goes down as Rakuzan's able to pick up a couple of nice tags right there, really turning the tides in the favor of Trippin's team. Joanne's the only one left. Maybe they're going to avoid him entirely and just turn this fight into a 3v3. Maybe Joanne could just dip on out of there. And again, these are one of these fights that you just have to think, is it worth it? How much time do we have? How much heals do we have? I think for Mappy's trio, they are just deciding to disengage. But a solid performance and good fight there from Hellfire, Trippin, and Strap.
Hellfire, Trippin, and Strap really just taking advantage of the fact that the Spanish lads had clearly gone for a reboot, considering that earlier circumstance by Lone Wolf Lair. It's just very difficult. We haven't seen any teams have that true success measure after playing for the reboot, and it goes for good reason. It's always difficult to kind of crawl your way up out of the hole when you're dealing with a lot of other teams who only have one thing on the mind, and that's just winning. And obviously playing against the edge of zone, playing for those teams that are kind of just a little bit more chalk than where you might currently be standing, that's always going to be a big intention here.
Yeah, and I think a key factor with that as well is just the loss of the Storm Surge damage when you do reboot your teammate. You lose all of the damage that they've done previously in the game. That gets wiped off, 0. So I think that's really what puts these trios and teams in tough situations. as well as all the other reasons you just mentioned, you know, staying further back inside of the storm, having to pick up pieces, having to share loot, find heals, all becomes a bit of a problem. That's exactly the problem that these guys have to deal with right now, as Vox, Clement, and Splick do dip on out. I think if they were a team lower down on the leaderboard, they would have probably fought that, closed on through and taken down the remaining 2 players, but they're a team right at the top of the consistency leaderboard. So correct decision, I think, to get on out of there. Moneymaker inside of this Surge base as well, just trying to command the rest of the lobby. A nice sort of south zone pull for them, so they're able to look at all those players coming from the north. F9 as well, doing the same on a slightly smaller scale. But this is definitely the team that have the potential, Taco, and we've been saying it all day of what they can do. It's what we know they can do. It's just we haven't necessarily seen what they can do so far today.
And the worst is when you know just how close you actually are to breaking in to that 6th through 10th placement for the leaderboard. We've got Moneymaker for 9 and Faded. They're leading in that 14th place position, right? So they're fully aware of the fact that they are within striking range. They just don't want to overcompromise themselves, and that seems to be something that's taken place here with Tripper's team. Strapped in Hellfire, trying to get that double revive off. But there are so many other teams kind of just taking notice of the action here at Outlaw Oasis. Tripper haven't been brought back, though. That is a big saving grace as far as the box fight can move here. Man, see Tripper, though, he's got a little bit of HP left. He's got to make sure that he closes on these shots, but it's not going to be enough this time. Garamudo will find him, and no double revive in sight. That's a clear elimination. Now Strapped Hellfire. They're just forced to try and make something out of nothing. Garamudo, though, kind of working against the clock here for his teammate as well. Not a lot of HP to work with. And Props, another team has entered with the third-party strike.
Oh, no.
Spark not even going to be able to play for the medkit. All of these teams just punished for their overextension inside of the storm.
Yeah, just came gliding in there, didn't they? Cleaning up this fight. Hellfire down there in the feed as well, so great for Trippen's trio, the remaining duo now solo of that team. So really not the ideal circumstance for those guys either. There's now more Storm Surge fights taking place, teams that potentially need a little bit of damage. As man right here takes a beautiful shot and knock onto Velry, gets the full finish there as well. Kenty too. And I think that's all of them, yeah. Job done for those guys. Hizix needs to be rebooted, but they got the zone pullback tackle. They have the potential to. There is a reboot at Canyon Crossing. Whether they have the heals to be able to do so is what's most important. We get to see that again. I think it was the Storm, actually, that ultimately took them out. They'd already done that damage. There was a little bit of damage being taken, but really not comparatively. So it was that Storm, I think, that really ultimately took them out.
Elevation, though, definitely going to become a pretty big topic here for some of these teams that are trying to make sure they're traversing the landscape to their advantage. Kiro, Pink, and Nebs just trying to proceed a little bit more cautiously, with Panzer, Thomas, and Umpel just ahead of where they're currently located. And they're not the only ones either. You've got to make sure that you're healthy before you actually make the play for some of these rotates. Nebs, Pink. I like how they're moving as one unit, though. It's kind of what you have to do, and they're going to take advantage of Resguard and Anas being so focused by the rest of the lobby closing in. The body's been knocked. They know that they can pick up everything that was left over, but Toos looking to cut them off instead. Doesn't want to allow Nebs' team the ability to actually gather anything off of refs, and that's going to allow for Anas and Sinet to actually double revive him.
Nice, massive for those guys. Absolutely huge. They need that. They need this game to be good. Only 28 above. Gets the knock there to Sinet. Really nicely done onto Kami. And they're able just to sit inside of this med mist grenade to heal their way up. So really nicely done from that team just to turn the tides on what was looking like a pretty difficult situation. Some rough waters for them, but they're still alive. They're still in this game. They can still make their mark. 200 above now as well, so it just shows how quickly things can go really well or really bad for teams. You know, you get knocked and it could all look over, and then you get the revive, pick up your Storm Surge damage, and now things are on the up. So let's see if they can do more of the same, what we've seen from them in the end games, particularly on height.
The fact that they're trailing, though, it's amazing that Thomas didn't eat more damage in the process of this rotate. Instead, he's going to now have the full advantage here of looking back, kind of spraying at the team that was trying to get a little bit of damage onto him during that last rotate. Callum, but the way that they're wrapping around the mountainside, they might actually go undetected. They're going to have to eventually collide with Noah Riley's team if they stick around. Pink, on the other hand, he's not willing to find out. He's got Resguard locked in his sights. He knows that he's weak, but he can't get through the wall in time. Still trying to see if he can chase something out here. But closing off back end as well. Doesn't want to get third party in the mix. A lot of action starting to pick up here. Some of these teams get a little bit more trapped on the lower elevation, working their way up.
Resguard just hanging by a thread this game. He's been knocked already, been revived. Now he's down to 1 HP again from the exact same people that got him to that stage initially. So he's going to have to pop that Chug Jug, see where Zone Pulls. Wow, Max Pull, you can see all of the little arrows that are on the complete opposite side of where that zone pulls. Mountainous zone as well. We're going to have a real exciting finish here to game number 4. This is not going to be one you want to be looking away from. All of these teams have to make such a difficult rotation. The Kings of the Hill at the moment is Janice Focus and Fast Roki, who are able to control the flow of traffic coming on up. If they can just apply that pressure, that's going to be crucial for them. And based on their assault rifle ammo, I don't think they're able to just apply as much pressure as they would have liked, but for now they're on height. It's whether they can maintain it, and there goes Resguard, there goes Anas, and it's Panzer, Uppel, and Thomas that take them out. It was an inevitability that Resguard and Anas were going to go down. It just seemed like it was going to happen for so long, and now Panzer, Uppel, and Thomas can make their way towards zone.
But way up above the rest of the lobby, Janice for Strokey Focus. All they needed to do was make it off the Ospawn. Clearly, Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel, though, they're having to actually duke their way into the next zone. They've got so many teams looking to try and collapse on them as well, and Panzer, unfortunately, has been taken out. Thomas is trying to see if he can get closer, trying to see if he can save his teammate from the likes of Pink, but it might just cost him his life, and sure enough, Thomas also taken down in the middle of it all, but Nebs, it comes at such a steep price here. Both of these teams just kind of left in tatters now, Minnie. Pink will use this opportunity to play the Chug Jugs, but as far as bringing Nebs back into it, that's not going to be an option.
Yeah, no way. That Storm's going to be taking for far too much now. I don't even think Pink's going to make it in himself. I don't think he's going to be able to. We'll have to see, though. As it's one of those fights that you take that you're almost confused as to why the other team are actually going ahead and taking it. But then it becomes a necessity to take it as Pink's still trying to make his way in. He's got the Medmis Grenade as well. He's got the Chug Jug, but it's only going to temporarily keep him because he's got to stay still inside of that Medmis Grenade. He's got some mobility as well. Can he make it in? He does. He does just about make it in, which is great. He can heal up as well, but now Pink needs to have a huge solo clutch because the implications of this are massive. They were on 129 points going into this game, just inside of that sort of top 5 consistency, so he's got it all to do right now. He's got the team on his back, and they need it.
But for a solo situation, Pink at least had a good amount of builds to try and get a little bit more placement points, delay what feels like it might be inevitable, working your way up this mountain face, the sheer volume of it. It's such a massive task to actually tackle, and Pink, last seen at 120 builds, now already down to 71, but he's just taking his time. He wants to make sure that he confirms the very next shot. A refresh could be monumental for him in his current position. Just trying to keep his wits about him. But if there's ever a moment for your veteran experience to show, it's right here, right now. Because you can be cool, calm, collected, turns back in the Freezy.
Nice.
That's a big knock. He just needs to get inside of the box, but he knows it's not possible. His teammate's just too close by, but Pink still lingering, still waiting to see if he'll get that moment to actually fully utilize what his hard work just brought him.
Yeah, that Cypher's going to be crucial. He has got builds with the zone pulls all the way up this hill. This is such a difficult rotate. Not even just for a solo, for entire trios. He gets a great shot there onto another player knocking up next door. Really difficult to traverse. He's also going to try and find some extra bills. He's not going to find it. He falls back down, back to the lobby as well. They've got to rethink now for game number 5, the last game of the day, as Wheat, Lucia, and Nefreezy have a bit of a problem to deal with as well. Can Wheat make it in? Just about, but no, gets shut down by Hizix, who is inside of the zone as well. And look who's on high. It's Fortnite, it's Moneymaker, it's Faded. Could this be their time?
This is a scene that Moneymaker fans have definitely been wanting to witness all day long, but Shark, Noah, Riley, Truelegs, they might have something to say about it. Truelegs, though, just so incredibly low, hanging on by a thread, it seems like. And Shark will take a moment to turn back. He's keeping tabs on height. But for right now, it doesn't seem like Moneymaker for 9 and Fade are going to be able to break through. They don't want to compromise their current position. They're not going to elect to drop just yet. Still doing decently with Matt. Shark, though, big knock onto Nefreezy, but he can't bring it all the way through. Focus, Yanis, Fastroki. They've struggled for so many lobbies, and this might be their chance. This might be their closure. All they needed was to make it through that off spawn. All they needed was to make it into a single endgame. And now, Focus trailing just behind the rest of his team, looking back onto Hizix, and sure enough, crumbling underneath him. Nowhere left to run, except into the hands of Fastroki's team. And that's a huge moment. It couldn't have come at a better time either, because they were kind of teeter-tottering for a while, Minnie.
Yeah, it's been a really, really rough day for Janice, Focus, and Fastroki, but who cares now? They've qualified through to the Major 2 finals. They haven't been able to find their feet throughout the early stages of these games. We talked about it all day. They haven't necessarily found that drop spot that's worked. They went back to Pump Power, had a rough time in game number 2, now in game number 3, and now in game number 4, they've had a real resurgence, you can only say, and it was this huge beam onto Faded. We saw it just on the screen, and it was that moment right there which really just ruffled the feathers of height and allow them just to thrive on low ground, taking out player after player. Focus making his way up, but all it took at the end was just a huge couple of shots to take out Hizix. Huge, massive game for this trio. The experience of Janice was showing right there, and they have done it. Frankie to Carter 11. What did you make of that?
Well, Janice got out of the Osborne and into the Major 2 Grand Finals to Carter, and you love to see it.
Yes, you do. I mean, they were 17th going into that match, so they needed this win, and it almost looked like for a moment when that late game, the moving zone started, that they were going to hold height, but then it just pulled down the ridge. Another trio took it, but they did a good job of staying up, keeping that chem, and with all 3 players up and running in those last moments, they ultimately were able to secure it. But I mean, honestly, it was very well played, Levin.
Look, our good friend Minimana talks about the experience of Janice showing through there, the experience of Fastroki as well. This now makes him a 16-time Grands qualifier. And it's weird because I feel like he's always been one of those players that's gone under the radar, but he's always in the major finals of EU, it feels like. Again, this team just has so much experience in those big stages. And I'm, again, maybe not the smoothest or cleanest of days, right? We saw them fighting in some of the earlier games. Then after we saw Demon's Diamond Picks qualify through from Pump Power, they were like, okay, let's go land there. They land there, they get contested, it doesn't go well, right? So it's like, they've had a bit of a roller coaster of a day. But at the end of the day, Frankie, sometimes it's just about making it in, right? Making it in, and then you figure it out come the major finals. And I think that's the vibes for this team right now.
How do you think they figure it out, Levin, for next weekend?
Well, the first matter to deal with is the off-spawn situation. Where are we going to land and how are we going to be contested?
Do you think they're going to just be experimenting during the week just to kind of try and see if there is a spot that might open up? I'm guessing they're going to be looking at who's qualified already, who's going to be seeing them in the lobby.
I think they're going to stick with what they've been doing. I think the part of the reason why they moved to Pump in these games was just because Janice has landed here this season, right? So it wasn't just like a wild shot in the dark, like we're just leaving just to leave. I think they'll stick with it.
Definitely not going to be going to Mars Meadows. That's one thing we know for sure. That's 11 2K guarantee, I imagine. We're going to head to a break. When we come back, we'll be breaking down all the action from Game 4.
Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go harder than harder go. When the to my place, earned everything that I claim. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up where you supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose if I'm the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole steady. Fake ops don't listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Cold riders off my body, cut them off, they acting sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. It's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than this audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. The track going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known.
Janice Focus and Fast Roki are the latest trio to qualify for next weekend's Major 2 Grand Finals via a golden ticket, aka a Victory Royale. Now there's just one game before we find out the next 10 teams confirmed to be competing for the Blade of Champions. And this is going to be a really interesting one because a lot of our top trios in contention for those spots did fall out of the lobby quite early in game number 4. And so it's really interesting to now look at the standings and see where we're at, because we were a little bit, at least I was a little bit concerned for Pink. They had a bit of a slow start at the start of today. Now they've managed to secure themselves inside that top 10, but nothing is guaranteed at this point, Levin.
Yeah, and look, big props to Pink there for holding it down towards the end of that last game. Solo crushed them a lot of points there. Again, this is a team that I think, we saw in this moment here. I was sort of saying in the green room to Carter, Pink is so funny to me because he's the IGO of this team. But sometimes if you watch them, you would never know. Like, because he'll be the first one to jump in box. He's trying to, fight everyone. But that just shows the confidence he has, eh?
Literally, you're like, is that Pink in the box? What is he doing? I mean, he's IGL and he's the first one in, going full aggressive. But I mean, it also showcased when he solo clutched those good amount of points. I mean, it was Thomas HD's trio that aggressed onto them, and despite all of them going down, Pink was still able to stay up. I think he even picked up an extra elimination, and did honestly probably the best he could to get in that top 10 and continue in that qualifying range through consistency.
Hey, he's in Germany for boot camp now, so it's zero pink. That's why he's feeling the confidence, if anything.
There you go.
I did not know he was in Germany. Thomas is certainly, almost certainly in Denmark right now. Shout out to the Danes, Levin. I think you have got some apologies to make to production later. But anyway, Thomas, I'm wondering, is this trio sometimes slightly overextended? Because they look like they could be good for a Victory Royale to Carter, but just something's not quite clicking in the final moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened a couple times today. In the first match, Uppel went down, and then this one, once again, they start getting, confident. They start hitting their shots, getting elimination after elimination, but they just keep on going. And at that point, when you go against a trio like Pink's trio that just jumps right into your box, as you can see, Panzer did not last a millisecond as he got knocked down, and then Thomas and Uppel fell shortly after. But I mean, at least they still made it close enough to the end game alongside a few eliminations where they're still in qualifying range. But it is going to come down to this last match because that leaderboard is neck to neck, Frankie.
Well, let's take a look at the neck-to-neck leaderboard. I'm particularly interested in page 2 and who could be contesting the likes of Thomas and Pink for those all-important top 10 spots. Ju, Funchek, and Z Andy, they've had a pretty impressive day so far, Levin, but do you think they've got what it takes to get inside that top 10?
Absolutely. And, we talk about it being impressive. I'm sure they wouldn't say so just because they're not in the, secure spots yet, right? They still need to do more. And it's interesting because you have 3 players there who have grand finals experience, 3 players who were in the major finals last season. So they'll be wanting to make a return there and have another chance at it. And I think they can do it it's just gonna have to be a big last game. And there's a couple other names I look at here and think the same thing, right? Obviously, last season we had Rakuzan or Starkus, who had a great performance in the groups, and he sort of like put himself on the map there. I think the biggest name I'm looking at here, Takata, though, Shark, Trulex, and Noah Riley. This is a team that most people watching will expect to see in the major finals and would have already thought would be much more secure in the leaderboard by now.
100%. And even based on the match before this, Refsguard and Nas and their trio, I mean, are looking incredibly strong as well. The main thing I want to point out is they're all very close to that qualifying threshold. I mean, from 1st to 10th, there's only a 60-point difference, and there's only one match left to make it happen. So you put out like 3, 4, even 5 names. There's so many different ones that can come in qualifying range, but it really all comes down to what they do now, Frankie.
I mean, we haven't even got around to mentioning Lucia and Frizzy as well, because for me, they have been not quiet. I feel like I wasn't expecting the performance from them that we're seeing tonight. Like, I know they're good for it, but they've been especially good tonight, Takata.
Yeah, I mean, they started off quite strong, back-to-back 3rd places. They were looking like they were going to make a repeat of Blah and Vixen in the previous group, but then they got that 18th place, 0 eliminations. It kind of brought them down, but once again, they made it into the top 10. They got a couple of eliminations alongside that, so they're looking good once again, but they still have to close it off. There is no like clear super qualified winner yet.
You gotta always be closing 11-2K, but do you think that this top 10 is going to remain as is at the end of Game 5?
Mostly. I'm gonna say mostly. Maybe 1 or 2 little changes up. I'd love to see some of the teams who are lower down, like, oh, it can't be some, but one of those teams just win the game outright, right? Not even have to worry about the consistency aspect, just win that game.
Who do you think is going to win that game, Takata?
I'm going to go with Noah's team. I'm going to go with Noah. I think they can do it.
I'm feeling it too. Levin, very quickly.
I'm gonna go the same. I'd love to see Shark pick up the win.
Why not? I'll stick with you guys on this one. Let's head to Mini Miner and Taco and get game number 5 underway.
It's a very big ask, not just for Shark's team, but for all of our remaining competitors in this match 5 mini. They know this is their second to last opportunity, but absolutely nobody still left in this lobby wants to try and deal with that last chance qualifier.
Yeah, it's so difficult. It's unrelenting. I mean, you got to qualify all the way from opens to a top 33 format, then get a win in that lobby as well. So this is the time where they need to get a win. And for teams that are a little bit lower down, this could be your moment. This could be the beginning of your career. Are we about to see it here in Game 5?
For so many of these teams outside of that 6th through 10th placement on the leaderboard, it's not just about being good enough. It's time to be great here in match number 5. The off spawn has proven to be rather tricky for some of our trios. For others, much less so. It's largely just dealing with collecting those surge tags throughout the map that has continued to prove itself a difficult task.
Yeah, for sure. The hero Pink and Nevs is important for them just to have a solid finish here in this game. Really didn't go the way that they would have wanted in that last game. I think they just, that fight really didn't work out for them and a little bit too aggressive in those moments, but it's now or never for so many teams. This is where we really start to see a bit of a shift in strategy. We haven't got that team that we had yesterday where they've already fully qualified. You know, they can just W key the entire lobby. The closest team to that is Clement, Vox, and Splik, as they need to win off spawn here to have their chances. Clement just somehow picking up the knock and Elim onto Spark right there. So their advantage now is in their favor for this fight. But these moments right now, this is an off-spawn fight that they need to win, but no. It's clear. Split goes down. Clement down to 2 HP as well. Vox is there to help. But the trio's now a duo, and the off-spawn is looking a little bit not so great for them as Karimuto against another team right now that are rotating through, I think, here, Taco. It's not ideal for Clement. It's not ideal for anyone.
Why is Lobby just seemingly dogpiling here at Shiny Shafts, but Karimuto has been absolutely powering through Clement's whole trio. Not going to be wiped in the process, but Dedinho will take out Karimuto. They'll be the sole survivors of this off-spawn at Shiny Shafts. The last minute contest that they just came through at the right time. So sad, though. You got to feel a little bit there for Clement because it looked promising, especially after that initial Goomba Stomp elimination.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of the matter, they couldn't manage to pull it all the way through.
Oh, they've been so good off spawn. They haven't had a slip up all day. Not a single beat was missed. And in the crucial moment, the vital stages of the game, it has happened. 193 points. They are out. They are down. They're going to be hoping that the teams below them, like Pink, like Nebs and Kiro, like Thomas HD, that they don't have a really solid game to keep them in it. But for Props, Nakes and Kind, these guys are getting involved in a bit of a fight right now. Rabbit there on the other side does go down. So they're in the advantageous position right now. Not too sure where Rabbit's teammates actually were, but a decent result right there for Props and Kind in that trio.
For what it's worth, definitely one of our scrappier teams of the day, and they're not the only ones looking to try and just fight it out in this last lobby for better odds. So many of these teams, though, currently involved outside of the area of Magic Mosses, they know they need a win. They're not really playing for just that one good game. They're playing for the Victory Royale. And it starts with just finding these early eliminations. Zardo and Nefario losing Ricky is a pretty heavy blow. And they're going to be forced to fall back, but Zardo might have just rolled himself up into another team entirely if he's not careful. So just have to keep a steady lookout for the surrounding area.
On the leaderboard here as well. Faded, part of Moneymaker's trio, does get completely chopped down as Gaudet, Joanne, and Scary Sean that are closing on through. Moneymaker cannot survive. This is another team that are inside of our top 5 for consistency. And this is a team that are all the way down the bottom of the leaderboard. And Scary Sean, Joanne, and Gaudet, these guys are all the way down in 30th, so they're just throwing everything at it right now to try and get a win, because ultimately, Taka, that's all they need here. It's only saving grace that they might have. Joanne does get beamed.
Moneymaker's supposed to be the lookout. He's the one that's surge-based up, and yet the Spanish trio, just no problem whatsoever. Catch him completely off guard, chop down his surge base, and now Faded and F9. Waiting, couple of shots in. On to Scary Sean. Gordavite right behind them, though. And this could be problematic here. F9 isn't careful, but this is also their final chance. They're not looking to leave it up to the odds of how the rest of the lobby performs. They want to bring Moneymaker back into this one, so they'll even the scoreboard. At least for right now. Scary Sean, Joanne, now looking to see if they can revisit. Maybe find an additional elimination or two, but Joanne doesn't want to risk it. They're just backing off entirely. Don't feel comfortable knowing that it's a win or bust, essentially.
Wow. The piece from Faded right there was beautiful. They've got another elimination as well. They've completely flipped the page right now from what was looking pretty annoying, if you like, for these guys. The fact that these the lower team has decided to W key them is actually looking a little bit more promising now. They've actually been able to pick up a couple of elimination points, which is perfect for them. If they can get Moneymaker back involved, you would like to think that they're going to have a solid endgame. As now up towards the Flooded Frogs area, it's Srap, Trippin, and Hellfire in a bit of a sandwich of two teams. Just sort of camping, waiting below. They have been spotted, so they're not completely anonymous, but neither team, any team, can really make a play because they just know what's lurking. They know who's going to be there to clean up. So it's a bit of a stalemate right now, and we see this so often with these sort of fights. You can see the implications of this fight as well. Two of the teams in this area, they're not really in that qualifying through consistency range anymore. It's a win and you're in situation that's required. Let's see what happened here. Very
so much
sneaky.
lurking.
Wow. It didn't work. Hellfire got away. It was unsuccessful, but they're trying it.
Oh, and Moneymaker, this is the punishment for having been eliminated earlier on. Sure, your team survives the first trio, but that reboot, man, it might as well be sound the alarm for everybody in the area. Diesel Lynx, they're certainly trying to pounce upon the opportunity. Moneymaker will at least be double revive, though. So it is a fully intact trio that can continue to try and scrape by there at Crime City, but they know that there are other teams lurking and hoping that they slip up yet again.
Oh no, Trippin left as a solo. Hellfire and Sraptor down for Julius, Twerk, and Mydra. These guys also need a solid performance here. They need a big game. Trippin down and out. So if that's the full trio down, which I believe it is, Trippin for the second season in a row is going to have to try and qualify through the last chance qualifier, which he didn't do with Thomas and Fred Oxy last season. So disappointment there for that trio, and I'm sure they would have wanted better. They would have expected better out of themselves, considering the experience of them, but it's tough for them now. They've got to try and make it happen there in the LCQ.
It's always heartbreaking whenever you see such long-standing figures in the competitive scene struggle, but also a pretty big indicator of where the level of competition has essentially catapulted itself towards, just that trending, that constantly trending upwards direction. And a trend upwards is something that Zandy, Ju, and Finchek have been trying to find throughout the course of today. They're sitting right there, kind of flirting with the edge of that 10th place position on the leaderboard. They're sitting on 11th, heading into this final lobby. If anything, it would be a huge benefit if one of the teams that's already quite close to that top 3 of the consistency side could actually find a victory royale here.
Yeah, it'd be really beneficial for them. We get to see sort of our consistency top 5 as of right now. We saw it earlier on. Clement, Vox, and Splick down, out, having to watch from the sidelines on 193. They can't get any more than that anymore. And for them, a team like Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel winning would be beneficial, just to get them out of the way. So for all the other teams that are a little bit below, they'll be keeping close tabs on that. It does seem like this Lone Wolf Lair skirmish hasn't necessarily gone the same as it's been throughout the day. We've seen lots of teams sort of around this area fighting. And they're just trying to find angles here, this trio. They're trying to find an opportunity, because Kim, Korma, and Borowski, these guys are in a position of some importance right now inside of that top 5. So they just need to try and find an opening, and they don't want to take any risks, because this is a team that I think some people would be surprised if they were to make it into the Major 2 finals, but they've played very well so far today. So, you know, they're not necessarily a team that's going to be on the top of everyone's lists, but when it comes down to it, if they can qualify through consistency, they deserve to be there. And that's why they're just being a little bit more patient, a little bit less aggressive, a little bit less proactive in getting tags right now, and they're letting the other team come to them. And this is a big fight. You can see what it means on the leaderboard. 2 teams that are just so close to each other, neck and neck. Skuden hits a huge shot onto his opponent right there, initiating this fight, starting it off. It's just a bit of a close-range engagement that means so much here, Taco.
But almost as quickly as Gudenbree tried to barge open the door, Kim managing to fall back here. Perovsky, this team has largely held their own throughout the course of today, and with third-party shots firing in now, Rakuzen knows he's got to close in. Kim, literally 1 HP for the time being, will manage to get off that small shell potion. It's still the bigger shot that's been landed, and Kim reminding exactly why you can't just immediately jump into the box here. Perovsky, unfortunately though, will no longer be a counterpart, and Mappy just waiting for the walls to break down. Wants to try and get those confirmation shots for the full elimination. Memmis Grenade instead gonna be forced into play here. And it hasn't been fully decided just yet, but Zandy's team, Panda's team, both kind of just surrounding the heated battle here that's taking place at Lone Wolf.
Yeah, it's just the experience here of Mappy's team. They have got that little bit more experience. Kim and Perovsky, Chroma, I think they only have 1 Grand Finals performance appearance between all 3 of them. So it's a team that just haven't necessarily got to this point yet in their careers of being so close to qualifying for Grands and the Major 2 finals in this instance. There is just 2 teams that are just lurking. They're waiting to pounce. They're waiting for an opportunity. They're not going to get it for a while, I don't think, as Mappy and his team are just able to refarm some of these buildings some of the materials in here, maybe get some of the loot inside of the vault as well. They're quite happy just to sit here. They've got a good amount of damage from that fight. I think both teams quite successfully got what they wanted out of that fight because they're both in a very similar situation in the leaderboard. And there's just two teams lurking, waiting there as well.
Hot topic of discussion, though, is definitely going to be Pink's trio, especially after that performance that we saw Pink kind of put on in that solo clutch scenario. Definitely some very much needed placement points that he was able to kind of collect at the end of Lobby 4, and it's kind of nestled them into a decent position, but what it looked like it would have been a little bit more promising here for Kim and Perovsky. A 1-for-1 exchange. Rakuzan and Mappy trying to bring Gudembry back into this. And they will succeed, but more trouble kind of just brewing here at Lone Wolf. That other team, or at least one of them, decided to make their presence a little bit more known. Tedinho, trying to close in now, knows that one of these trios is severely hurt. It's going to be Kim all the way at the bottom that Brio and Panda just managed to fully close in on. So a duo now forced into a circumstance, Mini, where they can't necessarily escape Lone Wolf either because of all the commotion surrounding it.
So much action here, and it was always going to happen when there's a fight that gets activated. There's those third parties, the Hawks just waiting to pounce, and that's what just happened right there. So real difficult problems for that trio. Unfortunate there for Kim, Chroma, and Perovsky. But for No Rally, Trilex, and Shart, this is a team that I think we expect big things from. I mean, look at the names, look at the talent. Trilex leading the way, the experience. Levin highlighted it earlier. Why would you not want this player on your team? You know, the experience at LAN, doing very well at LAN as well, and leading the way in lots of different metas across multiple seasons. And then the up-and-coming talent of Shark combined with the fragging power of Noah Ray, the resurgence of him as well. As now Perovsky, Chroma, down to a duo, need to try and pick up the pieces. This is huge for their season. This is huge not just for today, but also for their entire careers to make their first major finals as a trio. I just don't think it's looking great for them. Perovsky's doing everything he can to try and evade the shots, but it's not going to be enough as he's down and out. Twek, Mydro, and Julius here. These guys are just sneaking. Very, very patient. Very difficult to hold your nerve right there. The trigger discipline, as they call it, to not just take shots when they're all fighting and just keep that pace of just sneaking up. Maybe it's too slow, though, as the other team do just dip on out. And yeah, they're not going to get the opportunity that they wanted. They're going to have to make the decision now, but yeah, they're going to get that reboot. This is going to be perfect for them. Opportunity to fight. They chuck down the splashes.
While, though.
Still a long time, but they're hoping to find the elimination out of the air.
Should be able to confirm Panda this close to the action, and no chance that Panda's going to be able to actually touch foot into Flooded Frogs. But now, Midro probably very happy about the fact that it's just a little bit more surge damage, extra elimination, some extra siphon materials to work with, and the siphon in general. It's going to buy them a little bit more time here inside of the storm. Julius now hoping that they can completely tackle Brio and his teammate. 2 more eliminations to add to the tab would always go a long way, especially when you are chasing after a Victory Royale finish. It almost seems like there was really just no fight left in Brio. They'd already gone through so much heading to Flooded Frogs in the first place, trying to bring their teammate back into this. And that was just a quick collapse coming out of Midro, Twek, and Julius. And now they're going to be able to slightly more confidently push through into that next edge zone. Gudembry's team, though, probably very happy if they were keeping an eye on that elimination feed, seeing the team that was in 12th place just ahead of them be fully eliminated. Gotta be rubbing your hands together and kind of just plotting on how, you know, that's just one step closer to being inside of that consistency threshold.
Yeah, absolutely huge for them. It's needed. You need all the help you can get in these lobbies when it does come down to it. The final game, the nerves, the aim jitters, if you like. It's just such an important moment for all of these players, especially ones that do have a little bit less experience. Players that maybe trying to make their first major finals. We saw it earlier, the stat 46 out of the 99 players have never actually made a major finals before, so for those guys, it's such an important time. There's someone that's no stranger to that, Thomas HD, making their way off their surge base and just trying to make their way to the difficult long zone rotation, the difficult pole. And getting beamed in the process, but it's not going to be too much of a problem. They know just to take it step by step. They don't need to rush. They've gone early enough, which is great. I always get so scared whenever I see people jumping down using those kneecappers. Look at that.
It's just the fact that Thomas got slapped from 2 different directions, right? You got to worry about the team behind you. You've got to worry about teams that are a little bit further north than you. And Thomas seems like he could potentially be looking for a little bit more of an even-footed exchange here. It's going to cut off Kenti's trio. And you can tell that they want to get a little bit closer, but Thomas's team seemingly have the upper hand. They don't want to waste any time here, though, Mini. They're actually just going to keep moving forward, at least while the lobby focus is continuing to kind of be emphasized a little bit more towards this Maku zone entrance. They're fully aware of the fact that they've just got to get in, and that's something that Pink's team has done rather excellently. It's a really strong position in their current base on this mountain span in Brutal Boxcars.
Yeah, perfect. 900 damage above. Looking pretty good. Not necessarily an indication of the amount of damage that they have done, but comparatively to the rest of the lobby, they are above, which is great. As a lot of people are not necessarily in that same situation. For Lynx's trio, they need to get right involved, and this is where things get panicky. This is where things get desperate, unfortunately for them. Lynx has lost his 2 teammates, Moneymaker for 9 and Faded. They're the players that can benefit from that. Now 1,500 above the threshold. He'll be able to get the loot as well. Because I think Lynx does fall yet. It's Moneymaker that takes him out as well there at the end. Really nicely done from that trio, who just took advantage of players that need that Storm Surge damage, which can just cause your team to crumble a little bit when you are getting pressed by teams that just need it no matter what. But the real experience was showing through there for 9 in Moneymaker and Faded, just to deal with that problem like it was nothing. And they can continue plowing on through this game. They got a long rotate to make here, so this is going to be really important from them. But from a bit of a rocky start for this team, they're really finding their feet.
It's looking a little shaky, though. Trying to just white line up the mountain face might not prove to be so easy. Teams already in those elevated positions, like what we saw just moments ago with Pink's trio. It could pose a serious threat to Moneymaker and co, because even if you've got the damage, if you can't make the rotates, all of it just amounts to nothing, essentially. And Lusha, Nafrizi, they're also fully aware of the fact that they're going to get a little bit of natural coverage inside of the train station, but they've still got to find a way forward. They don't want to get too caught on the congestion. It'll start to build towards the backside of the zone. Great opening shots, though. That is until they eat a couple tags themselves. Still trying to build overhead, though, of where Callum's team is currently boxed up at. Not completely sold, though, on them wanting to take that engagement right away.
Important moments here as well for Gooden's team. Mappy as well. This is times when people are rotating. This is opportunity. This is a window which you can use to get a little bit more damage, because it's not going to survive. They're not going to last on the damage that they have right now. I need to make more use of that. As you can see, all that congestion in the sort of bottom right side of the screen. As we see Thomas HD. Whenever we flick to Thomas HD on a replay, I don't know what it's going to be, but I can have a good guess. It's probably going to be Thomas HD absolutely beaming people, and that's what we're seeing yet again from Thomas with this mythic drum gun, and he's leading the damage. We saw the quick stat earlier, and I think that mythic drum gun's got to have a part to play in that. Combined with the aim of Thomas, it's just a match made in heaven. I hope to see more of that throughout the rest of the season, but TrueLex, No Ready, and Shark, they've still got a lot to do. They still need a good performance here to make a play for that top 5. A win would do it as well, of course. There's so much on the line for all these teams in the lobby right now.
Look, I'm with the Des. It's hard not to want to root for TrueLex's trio, especially when they are a team that's definitely been held to a pretty high standard this season. Current issues, though, on the high ground for Kenti, Atro, and Velry. They've had their fair share of struggles throughout this match. They're still trying to see if they can overcome them. And it might be moments before they decide to drop down, join the rest of the lobby. They can't really afford to continue trying to build overhead. Might be a little bit more than what they were bargaining for, though. Dropping straight onto Deuce's team, essentially. Velry still managing to get a little bit of an opener, and Carmi, if he's not careful, he might just lose his head. Two's gonna be the first one, though, to fall incredibly low here, and Velry still trying to see if he can break into the box, but recognizes he's got the advantage. He wants to get the positional heads-up play instead.
Huge moments here. Two's Carmi. Two's just 1 HP. Has to try and survive, and someone goes down there. It's Atom that does go down inside of that area. For Lusher, Nefreezy, Wheat, not looking so good on the Storm Surge, only 79 above. You need to be careful as to how they go about the rest of this game. As Velry goes down to Kiro, Pink, and Nebs. These guys are really kicking it into gear now. Their third elimination of the game. Really solidifying themselves inside of that top 5 consistency, but the job's not done yet. They still need to make their way through this endgame. And look who's up on high. It's Guden, it's Rakuzan, it's Mappy, all the way up there, spraying on down, looking like they are on top. And Thomas HD, yet again, we're seeing it. So much prowess with that gun, the ability just to have the advantage of the thermal over the rest of the lobby, doing so much damage. There's no doubt that they'll be making it late on into this game with those refreshes.
Damage just having already been done by Velry's trio onto Tusis, but Gudenbree knows there's still plenty of battle left to deal with here. Normal, Callum, they're trying to make this transition onto the high ground, but Thomas spraying down might have done Callum's team a huge favor by bringing out Mappy. It's gonna end up dropping just another elimination that could be counted in here. Double revive, though, might be able to bail Mappy out of this one. Still, Callum and Normal, they'll be more than happy to have the confirmation of the high ground. Waiting, though, to see if Thomas actually chooses to make a challenge for it himself. Gold Rush effect gonna help them just get one step closer to where a lot of this action is taking place, and faded from behind. Never had a chance to see it coming. Disastrous, though, for Moneymaker and for 9. They were just so fixated on all of the foot traffic in front of them, they didn't even realize that such a seasoned trio was pulling up right behind them.
Huge shots there from Thomas. He's doing what he does best. And there's a whole new team up on high right now. It's Phalix, it's Darkers, it's Ardy. They've now decided to take control of that high ground as Thomas HD gets inside of the box on low, gets eliminated, taken out by another player in the back. Now it's all up to Uppal. That was looking so good from Thomas, but it's all crumbled there at the end. Have they done enough?
Still a good amount of eliminations. They were already set in a pretty decent spot for the consistency metric of the leaderboard. Kiro and Nebs, though, it's their time to shine. Last lobby, they watched their IGL Pink clutch it up. Can they do the same here in this final lobby? They've already been looking solid, and Kiro finds the first one. He's trying to see if he can keep this ball rolling here. Down on the low ground, gets a couple of chug splashes to work with. That's going to buy him a little bit of an extra lifeline here, but unfortunately meets his end. Lusha scrambling, trying to get overhead some of these pre-existing builds, hoping that nobody notices him, but it won't go for long. He's taken out of the count here. He might have just done enough.
He might have, but now it's all up to No Rayleigh and Shark. The fragging duo doing what they do best, takes down a player at the backside of zone. That was absolutely perfect. As Mappy goes back down to the lobby, they're going to have to play the heal off, though, there, just while they can. But look who's up on high. The team that have just stayed up here for so long, ever since they took it, they haven't been contested. Everyone else has been battling on low ground, and who is? It's announced it's Refscard against Noah and Shark. It's a duo battle on low, while the trio retain that high ground, ensuring that they can keep on applying that pressure. But for now, the story's all about the low ground. Who's going to come out on top? Huge fights, massive implications as Shark hits a huge shot onto Refscard, takes him out Folly as well, and Nas is the only missing piece of this puzzle. It's Shark and Noah Rayleigh, the dynamic duo, doing it all on low ground.
But they need this. Shark and Noah Rayleigh, they don't want to leave it up to the odds of where these other teams currently nestle inside of that leaderboard. Darky's going to forfeit the high ground. That's going to be Noah Rayleigh with the takeover, but he doesn't have any builds. Already, one more time, just cranking up. It's him against Shark, and Shark doesn't have any shield to work with Noah Rayleigh. He's got to find an elimination. He needs to get that siphon off. Already now going to drop. Doesn't want to leave his team alone in this 2 versus 3 circumstance, but he can't get those final shots. He only needs one of them to connect, and and that could be the demise here for Shark and Noah Riley. Felix, Darkies trying to provide whatever backup they can, and already does it. He brings down the dynamic duo here in Shark and Noah Riley, but it might be a tragic finish as far as Trulix's team is concerned. But one team's downfall is another team's upsurging, and a huge congratulations because Artie's trio definitely needed this one.
Artie, Phalanx, Darkies, what a moment for them. They were in 25th going into this game. It's a huge performance from them. They'll see themselves in the Major 2 finals. But for Trulex's team, for Shark, for Noah Rayleigh, is it going to be enough? So many questions to be answered. I'm not too sure. I don't know if the points were going to be enough, but from these guys dominating up on high, it was all a bit of a mess, Taco. Players going up for it, not quite being able to hold on to it. We saw Thomas HD doing damage to players trying to claim it, but ultimately it was these guys, it was Artie, it was Phalanx, it was Darkies who took control.
You could see the moments too where Artie, Felix, and Darkies, they're really trying not to wobble in those last couple of blow exchanges. They didn't want to find themselves getting turned upon when they knew they had the one-man advantage here. Mini, it has been an absolutely electric close though, because so many people I think are going to be biting their nails figuring out whether or not Trulix's team was able to do just enough at the end there. Shark and Noah Riley, they put on such a performance. It's so unlucky that it came up short, but again, have to give credit where it's due. Big kudos to Artie, Felix, and Darkies for confirming this final Victor Royale. That's going to wrap up Group 3 for us here today, though, Mini Miner. It's been an absolute pleasure, but now we got to find out what happens next with our teams on the leaderboard.
Thank you very much, Taco and Mini Miner. Fantastic hearing you guys commentating all the group stage action. Now, there is a very tense wait for all of our trios now, especially the ones who are on page 2 of the leaderboard, because we need to find out if the likes of Noah, Trilex, and Shark have done enough to actually make it. But while we wait for that leaderboard, let's talk about what went down at the end of that game, because that was a true nail-bite 11.
Yeah, Phalanx, Artie, and Darkies. 3 names who have been around in EU for quite some time. And like the commentators rightfully mentioned, they needed that one. They were way down there in the leaderboard. No chance of getting in via consistency. It was a win, or your FNCS is done, at least until the last chance qualifier. And they managed to do it. And they managed to do it against a very, very tough and hungry team. For a moment there, I really did think, Takata, that Noah Riley and Shark were just going to make it happen, right? Just the magic of that moment. You thought, oh, it's written all over. But they held on strong.
I had that same thought. I was like, is Prime Noah about to show up and just 1v3 these guys alongside Shark, maybe even get it done? But I mean, still, congratulations to them. It's what you love about the group stage. Anything can happen. You can have a trio from 25th spot, as Mini Miner mentioned, going into that match, end up qualifying just by getting the VR. So happy to see them in the major finals.
Definitely. And let's actually find out, or at least remind ourselves, of the trios who picked up victory royales and therefore tickets to the Major 2 Grand Finals earlier today. Because if you cast your minds back, the Frenchies, Akira Kurama and I can't pronounce the last name.
Werex.
Werex, yeah. I was like, hang on a second, he wasn't there earlier. Werex. I know Werex booked their spots right at the start of today, 11.
Yeah, no, it was a great start for these guys. They came through. They were able to pick up that win. Obviously, a lot of talk about what was going to happen, you know, off spawn. Obviously, these guys land south of Dojo, and so they were able to get their loot and get their game plan fully intact. Game 2, though, Pix, Dom, Demus, one of the premier names of this lobby. Takata is their #1 glazer, so I'm going to hand over to him to big them up a bit more.
Hey, you're right, Levin. I can't hold myself back, and it's what, you know, I love to see. We talked about them earlier on, the underdog to kind of top tier EU talent story timeline with this trio is insane, holding the record for most eliminations in an EU group to qualifying to their first major finals and coming 5th in that. And now once again, all it took was 2 games for them to get a double-digit elimination victory, pushing them into the major finals once again. Hopefully they can live up to that going forwards. And obviously, you know, game 3-11, Mr. Savage, Vidil, and Reason, retired, not retired. What's going to happen in the finals? it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. What is going to happen in the finals? Because obviously there's going to be very big names in the lobby, names that the likes of Mr. Savage, Reason, and Vidil are very used to competing against. Do we think that this incarnation of this trio can really contend with the likes of Queasy and Venno 11?
I don't think they're there yet, and I don't want to, put them in a battle. It's almost like, like when you get hyped up and like your friend starts being like, "Oh, nah, you can handle them." You're like, "Oh, chill, bro. Like I don't, like I'm not ready for that yet." Like I don't want to put them in that conversation. But is this a team that I think can absolutely qualify for globals this major, especially considering some of those other teams who have already qualified might be in that sort of top 3, top 4, whatever. So some slots pushed down. Yeah, Savage just came 8th on EU, right? That's really great performance. And Reason Vidil are the caliber of player to be pushing up into top 5s. They did it so many times last year.
Well, they'll be returning to show us what they're made of next weekend. But right now, we need to find out who's going to be joining them, because the top 5 consistency trios, we're ready to see it. Here we go. Who made it through? We're pretty sure Thomas made it through because of the way he was playing and having the time of his life with that Tommy gun right at the end. Fincheck, Ju, and Z Andy just making through. And unfortunately, I can't see. No, I can see Shark, Trulex, and Noah. They managed to cinch it with that top 2 placement in game 5, Levin.
Yes.
That was a close one. That was so close. Look at the lead. Look at the points between on the leaderboard. I mean, there was a couple teams in there that performed all throughout the day and weren't quite there, right? I felt like almost every single time we looked at the leaderboards, Clement's team was in the top 5. They miss out here after that final game. I think when you look at the names that went through, well-deserved, and teams who I think everybody wants to see in the major final. And a lot of them, put on a show for us today.
It's interesting to see that Pink came good on his promise and has really bounced back with this new trio. Obviously, that's something I'm very excited to see, Takata. Are you?
I am 100%. They've been looking lethal too. I mean, you talked about in the first game, you said 0 eliminations. They can't be doing that if they want to be as strong as, Pink even said leading in to the event today. But right after that, I don't know if they watched the broadcast or what happened, but every single match after that, they got a good amount of eliminations. And even so, I think made it top 10 basically every single game. So the consistency paid through. Their fragging power looking incredibly strong. And I think they're suited up well for the major finals, Levin.
No, absolutely. Look, I don't want the Danish people in the production to cut my feed again, so I'm gonna try not talk too loose. But remember I said yesterday, right? Chino, Fredoxy, Pablo, obviously Chino was playing with Pink and Nebs last season. He decided he didn't want to play with them this season. Those guys didn't qualify through the group stage. They're gonna have to play the LCQ. Pink though, after getting dropped, right? They pick up Kiro, they've made it to the finals again this season. Just saying. Just saying. I just want to point that out.
Is there any team on the second page of the standings, Levin, you think we could see do well in the last chance qualifier? I'm looking particularly here at Wheat, Nefrizzi, and Lucia.
I think so. I think these guys got a lot of firepower, and that's the type of thing that you want to see. In the past, and I'm digging deep into EU history here, but if you think back to a lot of the sort of reboot round style games we've had in EU, there's been so many times when Nefrizzi and Lusha as a duo, would play for high ground really well and get things done. So I definitely could see them doing well in that LCQ.
Jakarta, any other names you want to highlight?
I mean, I don't know about other ones, but what's crazy is how high up the competition actually was, because Nefrizzi's trio only didn't make it to top 10 one of the 5 matches today. Also, Revsgard and Nas and Sined were right on that borderline. Guden's trio was right on the borderline. There was a lot of trios that were just a few eliminations to qualifying, so hopefully we can see them do a good performance in the last chance qualifier.
Well, the last chance qualifiers are coming up this week, Wednesday and Thursday. Levin, whose chat can I find you in watching that one?
Oh, I'm friends with too many viewing partiers. I don't want to make anybody upset. I'll have 17 tabs open. I'll have Amar, I'll have Boop, I'll have Aussie, I'll have Motor, I'll have Havoc, I'll have Gentle, I'll have every single stream on. I'll have K-Dog, I'll have, who else? Faxity, I'll have all of them on. Every single one of them.
Takata, did he miss any names there?
No, I mean, he's got a good list. He's got everyone. I'll be also doing some of the Spanish viewing parties. Shout out to Suha. I'll be watching all of the action on the last chance qualifier.
I am going to have about 1,500 tabs open and every single one with the audio on. Guys, thank you so much at home for watching. Thank you very much to Minimine and Taco for their fantastic commentary. You guys for putting up with me, and we will see you guys for the Major 2 Europe FNCS Grand Finals. I can't flippin' wait, but for now, let's sound that horn.
If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better ask somebody. Already, I consume the petty, it's plenty. I leave a penny for thoughts about how I'm living. Ay, turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than adios. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, me off the top, no way. I came and called my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up, where you supposed to go. Post it on the low, can't lose it, find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, I get it, they love my whole aesthetic. They got so listen, told you this ain't hypothetical.